Chapter 1200. The saber flashed across the river and turned into Li Qingshan. He kicked Fu Humonk's body and flipped him over. Bald donkey, you are the bastard. Zhang Yuntian felt like his blood was about to freeze. He was rooted to the spot and could not move. The others were the same. Their eyes were blank and their faces were pale, as if they were possessed. Even though the power of the dying flower saber was suppressed, it was still a piece of cake for him to kill a Qi practitioner. However, Li Qingshan felt that his power was running out. If not for the frenzied flower saber's cooperation, he would not have been able to use the dying flower saber. Look at you, I really want to devour you. The frenzied flower saber laughed. Devour your ass. Li Qingshan did not care. He raised his saber and walked to Ma Xingkong. You are Ma Xingkong? Demon! Ma Xingkong roared and pulled out his saber. Li Qingshan slashed again, and a bloody line appeared on Ma Xingkong's forehead. It went from top to bottom and split into two halves. He fell to the ground. Who else? No one replied. They were all dumbstruck. Li Qingshan glanced at Zhang Yuntian and said, Oh, right, you two. What did you say about me just now? Fame-seeking, perverse, worse than a beast. Every word was like a knife stabbing into Zhang Yuntian's heart. His body trembled, and a great sense of helplessness filled his heart. He deeply regretted coming to the north and following Ma Xingkong to the south. Even if the Ma clan's people were all dead, it had nothing to do with him. This Li Qingshan was not a demon. He was a demon king. He mustered up his courage and asked, Who are you? And who are you? I am the Martial Arts Alliance leader, Zhang Yuntian. Zhang Yuntian said proudly. Li Qingshan smiled and said, Martial Arts Alliance leader. All right, let's make a deal. Why don't you give me the position of Wulin's chancellor? Look at how much better my martial arts are than yours. Zhang Yuntian was speechless. The wildflower saber soul muttered, Humph, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be their match right now. I should be the Martial Alliance Master. Li Qingshan rolled his eyes and said, I think the title of Master of Wulin is too old-fashioned. It's not as impressive as the chivalrous king. He then said to Zhang Yuntian, Forget it, I don't want to be the Master of Wulin anymore. Give me this saber. What do you think? Are you willing? Zhang Yuntian took a deep breath. The position of alliance leader. It is not just based on martial strength. It requires at least half of the 4 noble clans and 7 great sects' approval. You guys are quite democratic. Kid, how dare you brush me off? Have a taste of my blade. Wait, there were people from the 4 great clans and 7 great sects here. They're right behind me. If they're willing to serve you as their leader, I'm willing to give up my position. Zhang Yuntian glanced at the corpses of Ma Xingkong and Fu Humonk. At the very least, there were 2 families that could no longer object. He had dominated the world and could not be humiliated like this. However, he did not want to die, so he simply threw the problem to others. Seeing Li Qingshan look over, the people from the other sects cursed in their hearts. Good idea. If any of you don't agree with my Hua becoming the Master of Wulin, come out and fight with her. Devil, you and I. Poof! A head rolled down. Li Qingshan killed a few more challengers who overestimated themselves. Finally, there were no more voices of objection. He asked Zhang Yuntian for the Alliance Leader's seal and a jade plate with the words Alliance Leader engraved on it. He hung it on his saber and ascended to the throne of the Master of Wulin. He pointed his saber at the sky and said, Remember what I said. The Supreme Master of Wulin, the treasured saber, Hua, commands the world, and no one dares to disobey. Shut up, don't call me Hua. Everything that happened here made the elders of the World Association on the other side speechless. Such a great crisis actually ended in such a joking manner. The crisis has been resolved. Everyone, focus, said Gu Yenying. Even though Li Qingshan possessed invincible strength, he needed to establish an organization to unite the world if he wanted to gather the power of belief as soon as possible. Moreover, she could tell that it was impossible for Li Qingshan to fight for too long in his current state. The restraints on a weapon were much smaller, but if he wanted to unleash its true power, he needed the support of the user's power. The Forsaken Immortal Sword had caused a backlash against Elder Tian, and the entire sword collection palace had been sacrificed. Only then did he possess the power to fight. Li Qingshan was unable to provide power to the end of Wuling Blade. Now, he completely relied on the power stored in the saber to fight. There would come a time when it would run out. If he wanted to replenish it, he would have to rely on the divine talisman of great creation. Just as she thought that, a nameless power suddenly descended from the sky. It passed through the top of her head and pierced her soul. Gu Yenying felt like she had been struck by lightning. She discovered that the mountain of corpses beneath her and everyone around her had all vanished. Only the blood-red ground extended endlessly. She slowly raised her head, and a single eye filled the sky, staring right at her. At that moment, her hawk-like eyes became blood-red, reflecting a black sun and moon. Her presence suddenly changed, and a vicious aura flooded the surroundings. Li Qingshan suddenly looked back and frowned. What was going on? The crisscrossing, blood-red lines twisted, and the bloody mist churned violently. Yin Qing sensed Gu Yenying's change and took a step back. She cried out involuntarily, Ketu! Rahu and Ketu were two great clans of the Azura realm. Legend had it that their ancestors were born from the same body, which was why they both used the black sun and moon as their totems. The black sun and moon in Gu Yenying's eyes were the exact opposite of Luo Ho Xiaoming's. It was the symbol of the Ketu clan. Yes, apart from the Ketu clan, who could chase a Rahu to the ends of the earth? Lord Luo Ho, what do we do? Gu Yenying slowly turned her head and stared at Luo Ho Xiaoming with her blood-red eyes. Found you. The voice was hoarse and sharp, yet inexplicably pleasant. Although it was no longer Gu Yenying's voice, it was still a woman's. You really came. Luo Ho Xiaoming smiled coldly. Do you think you can escape by hiding in a place like this? Look at how weak you are. You're just like a worm. You've saved me some trouble. Die. She reached out to grab Luo Ho Xiaoming's throat. The laws of heaven and earth shattered, and the void distorted. Facing this attack that transcended the void and worlds, everyone could only watch helplessly. It was the same for Luo Ho Xiaoming, but the sneer on his face did not change. Instead, it became even more intense. A dark green feather drifted down. It was light and silent, but it left a bloody mark on the giant eye that filled the sky. Luo Ho Xiaoming's sneering face was revealed from within. Gu Yenying woke up from her nightmare and found that she could see the outside world again, but she still could not control her body. Only then did she realize that she had been possessed. The hoarse and pleasant voice was filled with shock and anger. She never thought that there would be something in this small world that could hurt her, even if it was only a wisp of her will. The power in the pale blue feather was negligible, but it contained a vast and lofty will that was far beyond her reach. Heaven-mixing feather. Finally found it? This is just a small gift in return, Luo Ho Xiaoming said. Chapter 12:01. The crisscrossing blood-colored lines in the air broke and disappeared at the same time, like a broken heartstring. Luo Ho Xiaoming pursed his lips and remained silent. He became weaker at a visible rate. His face looked even more childish, and his melancholy became even stronger. Gu Yenying's body swayed, and fell backward. Li Qingshan flew back and helped her up. Are you all right? Then he asked Luo Ho Xiaoming sternly, what's going on? Gu Yenying shook her head and said in realization, so I'm the sacrifice. Originally, she was the same as Li Qingshan. She didn't want to become an Azura. Even if she wanted to become an Azura, she wouldn't do it in such a lowly way. It was Luo Ho Xiaoming who made her stand on top of this mountain of corpses, saying that it was to show her position as the commander of this Azura army, and that was the center of the entire ceremony. It turned out that it was to attract the will of the pursuer to descend on her. This mountain of corpses wasn't useless, at least it fooled her. Luo Ho Xiaoming said, I'm connected to her by blood. If I can't cut off the clues and confuse the heaven's will, she can find me no matter where I go. Li Qingshan said angrily, so you're using us as bait? She should have found you and killed you. Do you think that if she had determined my location, she would still descend? She would have directly destroyed this world in the Azura realm, and no one would have been able to escape. Luo Ho Xiaoming touched the slingshot called Xiaoya on his waist. His expression was a bit absent-minded. Then why don't you let me kill you right now and get rid of one of my worries? Li Qingshan swung his dying flower blade. Qingshan, Gu Yenying grabbed his hand that was holding the blade. I'm fine. This can be considered a blessing in disguise. It turned out that when the Kuan Peng's feather severed the descending will, a trace of divinity contained in it fused into her soul. In this world, she couldn't see any other benefits for the time being, but she had a better understanding of the inheritance in the Kuan Peng's feather. It's not a blessing in disguise. This is part of the plan's reward, Luo Ho Xiaoming said. Should I thank you? Gu Yenying raised her eyebrows. The feeling of being possessed by a god was not a wonderful experience. That's not necessary. This is what you deserve. Actually, if you had explained it to me earlier, I would definitely have been willing to cooperate. She never lacked the spirit of adventure. Once your heart is prepared, I don't know what will happen. This man might not be willing to let you take the risk. Gu Yenying glanced at Li Qingshan, then suddenly looked away. Forget it, this is not a bad result. Li Qingshan slowly put down the blade in his hand, hid the anger on his face, and said to Luo Ho Xiaoming, although I made a promise to you, if something like this happens again, don't blame me for being merciless. Luo Ho Xiaoming reluctantly grunted. Apart from this small accident, the ceremony went very smoothly, except for Yin Qing. Apart from Yin Qing, the others didn't even know what happened, completely immersed in the ceremony. When they opened their eyes again, their black pupils were faintly glowing red, carrying some of the characteristics of an Azura. The left and right protectors' auras rose. They even directly broke through to the innate level 9. The other martial artists also more or less improved. The path of martial arts and the path of Azura killing were interlinked or even fundamentally the same. But the ones who benefited the most were not them, but the thousands of soldiers. They had missed the best age to practice martial arts and would never become experts in their lifetime. But now they were reborn, and their bodies were brand new. They had the possibility of advancing further. Amidst the tsunami-like cheers, Li Qingshan looked at the other side of the river, Zhang Yuntian, and the others had already disappeared without a trace. He didn't want to kill innocent people and wanted to take this group of people as hostages to unify the world in the future, so there would be fewer obstacles. But he didn't expect such a change, and he didn't know if it was because of the influence of the heavens. If he went to chase after them now, even if he killed one or two, it would be meaningless, and it would waste the power of the frenzied flower blade. Forget it, I'll let them spread my name. I think the effect should be similar. Afterwards, Gu Yenying ordered everyone to dig a big pit to bury the corpse mountain, and the stench lingered for months. On the way back to the city, Gu Yenying asked Luo Ho Xiaoming for information. Is that your mother? There is such a mother in the world. This feather is called heaven mixing feather. What does heaven mixing refers to? But from that day on, Luo Ho Xiaoming didn't say a word, and he looked more and more depressed and dispirited. Li Qingshan felt a little sorry for him, being hunted by his closest relatives. Even if it wasn't the only reason he lost his fighting spirit, it was still a deep impact. But such a thought only flashed through his mind, and he had many things to do every day. Gu Yenying led the army to uproot the Ma family's influence in the north, and the martial arts of many soldiers in the army began to improve by leaps and bounds, causing a qualitative change in the whole army. Gu Yenying's strength also increased, and she no longer needed Li Qingshan's constant protection. Li Qingshan sat in the city, ordering people to copy the biography of the White Ape King, and at the same time gathering and training a large number of storytellers, not only to spread his novel, but also to spread his idea of great harmony, equality for all, so he no longer had to worry about a lack of manpower. He was not in a hurry to expand, but to fully digest the results of the war. Wherever the world developed, the biography of the White Ape King would spread. The power of belief in the divine talisman of great creation increased at a rate of 100 times. Li Qingshan discovered that although this world was much smaller than the 9 provinces, the power of belief it provided was no less than the 9 provinces. The 9 provinces were vast, but his novels could only influence the Clear River Prefecture, and even the Rui Commandery, and it was just a form of entertainment at the end of the day. Afterwards, with the chaos of war, even the lives of regular people were in danger. So who was in the mood for entertainment? From then on, the power of belief in the divine talisman of great creation stopped gathering, growing at an extremely slow rate. As a result, Li Qingshan no longer paid any attention to it, focusing on other things. Although the world was small, basically everyone desired the martial arts mysteries hidden within the biography of the White Ape King. He even had the authority to enforce it so that everyone could read and hear the book, so the effects were obviously on a whole new level. And with the complete overthrow of the Ma family's rule, the land was all given to regular people. The name of the hero king was basically like the midday sun in the north. Many people worshipped him almost fanatically. It was said that in a village to the north of Galloping Horse City, there was an old man who did not know any martial arts at all, nor did he know a single word, yet he could memorize the hundreds of thousands of words he had written without missing a single word. Li Qingshan even specially summoned him, let alone practicing martial arts. The old man basically had one foot in the grave. It was not for the martial arts mysteries in the book at all, so his devotion went without saying. In the end, Li Qingshan rewarded him with many treasures and ordered people to send them back to the village, which led to another wave of memorization. If I can unify this world, I'll definitely be able to elevate the power of the divine talisman of great creation to an unprecedented level. Chapter 12:02. Time flew by. Spring left and summer came. It was another full moon night. Li Qingshan sat cross-legged beside the pond under the weeping willow and gazed at the bright moon in the pond. Luo Ho Xiaoming lay on a round rock nearby, with his arm as a pillow. The rock wasn't big, and his figure was getting smaller and smaller. As he gazed at the sky full of stars, the melancholy on his little face faded a little. It was as if he was pure for the first time, or as if he was about to die. Li Qingshan guessed that he was cultivating some kind of technique similar to Phoenix Nirvana, because if he really continued to rejuvenate until he became a little tadpole, why would he care so much about his own life? Ever since Luo Ho Xiaoming came out of the Shuraba, he followed him closely. Gu Yenying finally didn't need his protection anymore, but now he had this little tail, so he could only continue to be a big bodyguard. He closed his eyes, and his body glowed with seven-colored splendor, illuminating the pond. Half a month ago, the divine talisman of great creation had accumulated enough willpower, and he only had to wait for this full moon night. Pure spiritual power surged and circulated in his body, pushing the devil-ape moon fishing art with all his might. His heart was filled with joy, and he couldn't help but smile. The devil-ape made him feel happy no matter what, and he almost couldn't help but dance with joy and let out a few strange howls. However, he suppressed this impulse and continued to cultivate. As his cultivation continued to deepen, and there were no other changes to restrict him, his appearance became more and more like an ape, and he always looked a little funny when he smiled. Luo Ho Xiaoming turned his head to look at him, his eyes full of mockery. A trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his mood was better than ever. He was also guessing the technique that Li Qingshan cultivated. Even though his cultivation was almost gone, his vision was still there. Li Qingshan's change wasn't just in his appearance, but in his quality every day. To him, this wasn't anything special. What was special was the aura that the devil ape emitted. Even though it was just a bud, he could clearly feel it. This wasn't an ordinary ape. Instead, it was some kind of fiend god variant, or even one of the four legendary apes. Once it fully matured, its bloodline would definitely not be inferior to his. If that was all, it would have been fine. Perhaps Li Qingshan was born with a trace of bloodline inheritance. Then it was constantly stimulated through cultivation, but he had seen it with his own eyes. Li Qingshan had several different auras on him, and each aura represented a bloodline. Each bloodline was almost supreme, yet they were able to harmonize perfectly. This was definitely not something he was born with. It could only be the influence of some kind of cultivation technique. However, he could not think of any cultivation technique that could have such an effect even after searching through all his memories. Or, rather, it was impossible for such a cultivation technique to exist in the 6 paths of reincarnation and the 3,000 worlds. There was only one possibility left. He turned around and gazed at the stars. His gaze became boundlessly distant, as if he had passed through the Milky Way and reached an even higher place. In his heart, there was a kind of understanding. This chance encounter perhaps was fate. Haha, success. A burst of laughter suddenly broke the silence. Li Qingshan's ape eyes were wide open, filled with joy. Without the influence of other changes, the cultivation of the demonic ape transformation was unusually smooth. There were almost no obstacles, and he comprehended the first type of demonic ape's supernatural power. Li Qingshan raised his right arm and spread his fingers. He gazed at the bright moon in the pond, and then reached for the moon in the pond. He held a bright moon in his hand. The bright moon in the sky. The moon in his hand was still illusory, but it was finally a step forward. One day, he would go to the 9 heavens to pluck the moon. Congratulations, Luo Ho Xiaoming said. Li Qingshan was startled. Water flowed from his fingers and splashed into the pond. In the past few months, although the two of them had been seeing each other day and night, they didn't communicate much. It wasn't because of the incident on the Mountain of Corpses. Since the victim's family didn't care about it, he wouldn't keep it in his mind. It was just that Luo Ho Xiaoming was getting more and more depressed, and he did not speak much. He did not even answer 10 questions, so Li Qingshan would not rush to curry favor with him. But today he took the initiative to talk to him, and it was a good thing. It was like the sun rose from the west. Thank you. After a moment of silence, Li Qingshan said, I have something to ask you. Ask away. Can a man live without a heart? I am not a man. Then what's the difference between a man and a god? There is no difference. I understand. Damn you. Let's go back and have a few drinks to celebrate. Li Qingshan stepped across the pond, picked up Luo Ho Xiaoming. and walked towards the brightly lit mansion. The wind was howling, the dark clouds were heavy, and the mountain rain suddenly came. A small town at the foot of the mountain was suddenly covered by the wind and rain. It was already past the summer solstice, but the top of the mountain was still covered with white snow, which showed how high the mountain was. It was where the Snow Mountain School, one of the 7 martial schools in the world, was located. The wind and rain were like clouds. It was only 3 in the afternoon, but the restaurant was already dark. There were no customers for a long time. The manager was behind the counter doing the accounts, and the waiter was dozing off on the table. The rain had just stopped, and a few people walked in. They were all wearing snow-white clothes, with long swords on their bodies, looking very heroic. The leader was a woman, with a bamboo hat on her head and a white veil hanging down, covering her face. The manager looked up and saw who it was. He quickly came out from behind the counter and bowed. "Miss, you are here?" "Uncle Hong, you are still the same. We are here to take shelter from the rain." Schwebing nodded back. The waiter also woke up and quickly wiped the table and pulled a chair. "Miss, this way, please." He couldn't help but look up. Even though he couldn't see her face through the veil, he blushed immediately when he looked into her eyes. Schwebing turned a blind eye, and the swordsmen behind her were also used to it. After all, she was one of the top 10 beauties in the world, and it was inevitable that some toads would have wishful thinking. The manager personally served a few plates of delicate snacks. "Miss, you came so suddenly that I didn't have time to prepare. My place is not as good as the mountain, so you can have a taste." "You are welcome. I often came here to beg for food when I was a child." Although Schwebing had no appetite, she still picked up a piece of osmanthus cake out of politeness. The manager immediately smiled. Yes, you were so young at that time, and in the blink of an eye, you became one of the top 10 beauties in the world." Schwebing stopped eating the osmanthus cake. She had never liked this title, and now she was most unwilling to hear it. The so-called top 10 beauties were just the 4 major families and 7 major sections. Excluding the Pudu temple, each family and sect had chosen a woman with outstanding appearance. The first thing to be considered was family background, and the last was martial arts. Now, there were only 9 of the top 10 beauties left. The Ma family, the number 1 family in the northern region, could no longer produce any beauties, and the Snow Mountain sect happened to be the number 1 sect in the northern region. After the Ma family was destroyed by the world faction, all the sects and families in the northern region were swept away. Now only the Snow Mountain sect was left, and its traditional sphere of influence had been reduced to less than 100 miles. She had brought people to patrol and found that the situation was not optimistic. The legend of the White Ape King, which contained supreme swordsmanship, had already been circulated before the world faction attacked. She believed that it was in this city, because of the head of the Snow Mountain sect. Her biological father had collected a complete set. She had read it carefully and was amazed by the swordsmanship. What was even more amazing was that someone was willing to show such a supreme technique to others so easily and even spread it vigorously. At first, she had thought that it was someone else's martial arts, so she did not feel bad about it. But her father had asserted that the most exquisite part was not the work of the White Ape King, because even he could not comprehend it, only feeling that it was broad and profound. More pessimistically, if this went on, the legacy of the Snow Mountain sect would be lost even before the world faction attacked. Since there was a way to learn supreme swordsmanship easily, who would want to be apprenticed and live under someone else's roof? The supreme technique of the Snow Mountain sect, the blizzard sword technique, had always been learned by only a few people. This time, the disaster brought about by the arrival of the demon star was far greater than the last. The order of the martial arts world, which had existed since ancient times, had been destroyed like never before. Even the Snow Mountain sect, a sect with hundreds of years of history, could not avoid trouble, let alone the top 10 beauties. She was lost in thought for a moment, and shopkeeper Hong panicked. "Miss, is the snack not to your taste? Old man Hong, what nonsense are you talking about here? Go back and settle the score." A reckless young man waved his hand impatiently and said to Xue Bing with a face full of eagerness, "Sister, don't worry. With me here, no one can hurt you. You brat, you have only learned martial arts for a few years, and you dare to say such big words. Besides, Miss is such a kind and beautiful person. Who can bear to hurt her?" Shopkeeper Hong was unhappy. Although he only knew a little bit of martial arts, he was no match for this young man. But this small town and the Snow Mountain sect depended on each other. For hundreds of years, many people had practiced martial arts on the mountain, and there were all kinds of relatives. Even the miss of the Snow Mountain sect had grown up under his watch, so he was naturally not afraid of the prestige of martial artists. This was also the difference between sects and aristocratic families. Sects needed to recruit disciples, not just one family, and they valued reputation more. Moreover, they would not constantly spread out like aristocratic families, and the mountain could not accommodate too many people, so they did not need so many resources. Clothing, food, housing, and transportation were all provided by disciples, as long as they had a certain area of influence. Who else can it be? Of course it's the big devil, Li Qingshan. The arrogant young man obviously did not see Xue Bing frowning after hearing this name. Li Qingshan is not a devil, he is a chivalrous king. The waiter who was carefully serving at the side suddenly spoke, which surprised everyone. "Are you crazy? You don't have the right to speak here. Go and work." Shopkeeper Hong shouted, "Well, there is a spy from the World Society here. I will teach you a good lesson, and then you will know whether Li Qingshan is a chivalrous king or a devil." The arrogant young man rolled up his sleeves. "Even if you kill me, Li Qingshan is also a chivalrous king, the savior of us commoners." The waiter's face turned red, and he stretched his neck and shouted, "All right, stop talking. When the rain stops, we will go back to the mountain to report." Before Xue Bing's voice died away, the restaurant was suddenly illuminated by lightning, and a figure was cast on the ground. Boom! The thunder seemed to explode above their heads, shaking the bowls and plates, and everyone's ears were buzzing. Chapter 12:03. He rolled on the ground in a very sorry state before he stood up and shouted, "Boss, bring the wine!" Pitter-patter! The rainwater he carried splashed everywhere. Xue Bing's pupils shrank. She released her innate qi to block the water droplets. The others were not so lucky. They had not reached the innate realm and only had inner force. They were drenched by the rain. The exquisite desserts on the table were also soaked and could not be eaten anymore. Looking at the man who had barged in, he was tall and had disheveled hair. He was dressed in a yellow robe, and his sleeves were almost touching the ground. He was supposed to be dressed elegantly, but his chest was exposed, and his feet were covered in mud. There was nothing elegant about him, not to mention his strange appearance. He looked like an ape. The smile on his face made him look even more comical. People could not help but think of the words, "wearing a crown on a monkey." Manager Hong was so angry that he blew his beard and glared at him. It was a small matter if he was drenched by a few drops of rain, but the few plates of pastries that he had prepared were all ruined. He said stiffly, "We don't sell wine here." "What do you want to buy if we don't sell wine? Don't joke around. Bring it quickly. I will reward you heavily. Oh, right. Bring some dishes to go with the wine." I said, "We don't sell wine here." Although Manager Hong knew that the man was skilled in martial arts, they were at the foot of the Snow Mountain sect. They were surrounded by Snow Mountain sect disciples. Why would they be afraid of a stranger? The reckless young man from the Snow Mountain sect wiped the rain off his face. He was about to ask where this man came from. Was he a spy from the world, society? Schwebing's warning voice rang in his ears. Don't speak. The voice was cold, but it was trembling slightly. Looking at the strange man, she suddenly thought of someone. Rumble! Another series of thunder sounded. The cups and plates shook violently. It was as if there was a thunder dragon hovering above the restaurant. The lightning illuminated the inside of the restaurant. The roaring thunder shocked everyone. Only the man stood still. His shadow on the wall bared its fangs and brandished its claws. His face was also flickering. His originally comical face suddenly revealed a cruel and ferocious look. A gust of wind blew into the restaurant and lifted Schwebing's veil. A pair of limpid autumn eyes stared at the man's long sleeves. It did not flutter in the wind, but hung straight down. Her red lips had turned pale at some point. It's him. It must be him. That murderous bastard. The Devil King who brought chaos to the world. The blood seemed to freeze before seeing it with his own eyes. She had never imagined that she would be so afraid. He did not come here to drink, but for the entire Snow Mountain sect. She could almost see the bloody scene in the Snow Mountain sect. And the first to die was this shopkeeper Hong, who did not know the identity of the newcomer and insisted on refusing to sell his wine. He did not even have the courage to open his mouth to remind them. The man suddenly let out a childish laugh, which seemed extremely strange. Everyone shuddered, and shopkeeper Hong also took a step back, saying in shock, What are you laughing at?" The man turned around to look behind him. A young child climbed up from his back and sat on his broad shoulder. He mocked, "I told you to drink so much that you don't care about your life, but they won't sell it to you at all. Let's see what you do now." The summer thunderstorm came quickly, but this bastard didn't hurry to find a house to hide in. Instead, he saw a wine flag and insisted on rushing over, almost causing him to be struck by lightning. "What should I do?" "Nothing." The man spread his hands, turned around, and walked to the door. He faced the wind and rain, looking at the snow mountain in the rain. He actually gave up. Although he wanted to drink and wait for the rain to stop, he would not bully an ordinary old man for this small hobby. Anyway, when he reached the mountain, someone would treat him. If that happened, he would chop off the head of whoever dared to be stubborn. "Serves you right." The young child clapped his hands and laughed. Schwebing's eyes were filled with surprise. Did she see wrongly? In the face of such a scene, the slightly more vicious people of Jianghu would probably kill. Even those with a good temper would want to teach shopkeeper Hong a lesson and force him to bring the wine. However, seeing the giant blade wrapped in white cloth on the man's back, this glimmer of hope had to be destroyed. A few months ago, eldest senior brother had witnessed with his own eyes how Pudu Temple's tiger-taming master and Northern Horse Clan's Grand Clan leader all died under such a blade. Like pigs and dogs facing a butcher, they had no power to resist. Since then, eldest senior brother was somewhat delirious and often woke up with nightmares. And that child was also consistent with the recent information. No matter where he went, he would bring a young child with him. Some people suspected that the child was his illegitimate child with the World Society's leader. In order to avoid disturbing people's hearts, this information was strictly kept secret. Only a few people in the Snow Mountain sect knew about it, and she happened to be one of them. All the characteristics matched. This person must be the hero king Li Qingshan. Humph. At least you know what's good for you. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you know some martial arts. Just know what this place is. Shopkeeper Hong pointed at the snow mountain outside the door, feeling proud and pleased. Snow Mountain sect. Li Qingshan stared at the white snow on the mountain peak. This was the last nail in the World Society's territory in the northern region. He would personally remove it and test out his new supernatural power. Yes, since you are a martial artist, it is impossible that you don't know. These are all outstanding disciples of the Snow Mountain sect. The one in the middle is the daughter of the leader of the Snow Mountain sect, Miss Xue, one of the top 10 beauties in the world. Shopkeeper Hong raised his hand and introduced. If not for the fact that Xue Bing did not dare to act rashly, she could not help but scold this old man. Oh, Li Qingshan turned his head and looked at Xue Bing. Xue Bing felt that the pair of spirited eyes seemed to have penetrated the veil and saw her face clearly, or even saw through her entire person. Her heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and she felt numb all over her body. Shopkeeper Hong lectured Li Qingshan with a serious face. It's fine if you splash the rainwater on me, but you didn't even apologize when you splashed it on them. Do you really have no manners? It's just a few drops of rainwater. Why are you so stingy? All right, don't stare at me. I came in a hurry. I'm sorry. Old man, do you want me to wash your clothes for you? Li Qingshan teased Shopkeeper Hong with a smile and reached out to grab his lapel. They were at the foot of the mountain of the Snow Mountain sect, so of course there would be people from the Snow Mountain sect. It was nothing strange. If the leader of the Snow Mountain sect was here, it would save them a lot of trouble. They would not have to go up the mountain. What could a young lady do? Xue Bing felt relieved and ordered her brothers. They didn't do it on purpose. Don't be so calculative. Sit down. Uncle Hong, I don't have much of an appetite. You entertain the guests. The few of them were obedient to her and immediately sat down obediently, treating this as an insignificant interlude. The young lady is magnanimous and let you off this time. Hey, let go, don't tear it. I have a wife at home. I don't need you to wash my clothes. Shopkeeper Hong looked at the funny, smiling face and could not help but smile. You really look like a monkey. Do you want to drink wine? I thought you didn't want to sell. Still not selling. I'll treat you. Hey, I'm afraid you can't afford it. Go out and ask around. My Snow Mountain restaurant has 100 jars of Snow Mountain wine in our ancestral cellar. Take 1 jar and keep 1 jar, no more, no less. How many jars can you drink? But I'll say this first, you're not allowed to use your inner energy to make wine. What's the point of using your inner energy to make wine? Snow Mountain wine. Auspicious snow heralds a fruitful year. Good name. Quickly give it a try. You treat me to wine. I'll treat you to meat. You can use your inner energy to make meat, however you like. Look at your impatient face. It's not the Feng as in fruitful year. It's the Feng as in peak. Using inner energy to make meat. Only you can think of that. Since it's raining today, and I have nothing to do, I'll accompany you to drink a few cups. Xiao Bei, go get the wine and meat. Shopkeeper Hong sat down in a dignified manner and generously gave out his orders. Ha! I used to plow the fields. Li Qingshan sat opposite him and glanced at Luo Ho Xiaoming. See, I came at the right time, right? Someone is treating me to wine. It tastes especially good. Luo Ho Xiaoming pouted, jumped on the table, and shook off the rain on his body. Sai, you brought such a young child out for a stroll. Xiao Bei, get a towel. He was the one who insisted on following. I had no choice. Hey, hurry up and thank me. Thank you. Luo Ho Xiaoming took the towel, but his heart was filled with a strange feeling. It was the first time in his life that he thanked an ant-like mortal for such an insignificant towel. He suddenly frowned, lowered his head, and fell into deep thought. This child is my son. You're my son. Luo Ho Xiaoming jumped up and kicked Li Qingshan's chest. If it was a long time ago, this kick would have destroyed the snowy mountain outside the door, but now it did not even tickle him. Sai, I've spoiled you too much. Please excuse me. Luo Ho Xiaoming glared at him, a longing for power that he had not felt for a long time ignited in his chest. The waiter came over with a pot of wine and a steaming pot of braised meat. You used to plow the fields. Why did you stop plowing? Shopkeeper Hong asked casually. I lost the cow, so I came out to look for it. Shopkeeper Hong laughed out loud, thinking that he was joking. This is the first time I've heard of your reason for roaming the martial world, but a man's ambition is to roam the world. If you didn't roam the world, you wouldn't have learned such good martial arts. The rain poured down, hitting the roof tiles. It was noisy yet quiet, and the liveliness made it seem even more peaceful. The sound of thunder, on the other hand, became softer. It was not easy to attract thunder in such a small city, and the heavens could not do anything to Li Qingshan, who was in the building. When the wine was poured into the bowl, just as Li Qingshan was about to take it up, Luo Ho Xiaoming suddenly snatched the bowl and drank it in one gulp, which made Shopkeeper Hong's eyes widen. I've never seen such a young child drink so much. Bring another bowl. Li Qingshan asked the waiter to come to the table and said to Shopkeeper Hong, I'm afraid you won't be able to eat it all by yourself. I'll pour wine for you. The waiter came over with a smile, thinking that this man was much cuter than the group of Snow Mountain sect disciples. But of course, he was still not as good as the Missy. In the windy and rainy restaurant, a few people with completely different identities sat and drank. Xue Bing looked over, finding it hard to believe that this person was the devil that second uncle mentioned, who stood on the mountain of corpses. Chapter 1204. Missy, Shopkeeper Hong, and the waiter stood up hurriedly. The Snow Mountain sect disciples were stunned too. Li Qingshan leaned over the table and munched away. He glanced at her and said with a muffled voice, Sit. She gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine and said to Shopkeeper Hong, And the waiter, why are you standing? Xue Bing sat down and said, You guys sit too. The two of them sat down carefully. Li Qingshan shook his head. Women spoil the mood when men drink. Xue Bing took off her bamboo hat and revealed her face. Her skin was as white as snow, and her hair was as black as ink. She was indeed a beauty. She patted the wine jar, and a drop of wine fell into the bowl. She opened her lips and drank it in one gulp, revealing the bottom of the bowl. I came uninvited. This bowl of wine is my apology. Junior sister, senior sister. The Snow Mountain sect disciples were stunned. She had never touched wine before. They had never seen her drink like this. They all stood up. Sit down, Xue Bing shouted. Her fair face blushed, making her look even more beautiful. The waiter at the side did not dare to look at her. The Snow Mountain sect disciples also felt that something was wrong. They slowly sat down and placed their hands on the hilt of their swords. Li Qingshan smiled. You are a heroine, but you are not allowed to turn your vital energy into wine. Of course. Xue Bing felt a burning sensation in her stomach. She gritted her teeth and endured it. This gave her courage, and she asked directly, May I know why you are here? To avoid lightning. You are a man, yet you are afraid of lightning. I have no choice. I have done too many good deeds. The heavens cannot tolerate it. Li Qingshan shrugged. I have only heard that lightning will strike evil people. Xue Bing felt the effects of the wine spread and forgot her fear. She gradually felt the benefits of the wine and drank another bowl. Which evil person in the world was struck to death by lightning? It has always been people who kill and set fires. It has always been people who repair bridges and roads. Then are you going to be a person who kills and sets fires, or a person who repairs bridges and roads? Neither. The heavens are unfair. I will do justice for them. During the conversation, Li Qingshan drank several bowls of wine. He finished the jar of wine and said, Go get more wine. How arrogant of you. Sir, Shui Bing's emotions surged. She no longer had any doubts. Only the hero king could say such arrogant words. Who else could it be? Li Qingshan suddenly smiled. But this is a small matter. This is a small matter? Shui Bing asked curiously. Then what's the big deal? Looking for cows. Shui Bing did not know whether to laugh or cry. Then you don't need to look for it. I can give you one, Li Qingshan said. Little girl, even if you give me 10,000 cows, they can't compare to that one of mine. Luo Ho Xiaoming couldn't hold his liquor. She was dozing off with her hand supporting her head. When she heard this, she suddenly looked at him thoughtfully. Little girl, Shui Bing revealed a strange expression. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about this. Let's drink. Li Qingshan asked Manager Hong again. Just now, there is one of the top 10 beauties in the world you mentioned. Who are the other 9? Why are you asking this? Manager Hong asked cautiously. I was thinking, if I could marry all of these beauties, wouldn't that be great? This was the dream of all men in the world, but no one dared to say it, let alone in front of one of them. You're crazy, Manager Hong shouted. Missy, don't lower yourself to this drunkard's level. How dare you? The disciples of the Snow Mountain sect drew their swords. Shui Bing waved her hand, signaling for everyone to be quiet. Then you'll be disappointed. Is that so? There are only 9 of the so-called top 10 beauties left. No matter how capable you are, it will be difficult for you to marry all of them. Missy, are you going to quit and not be one of the top 10 beauties? I don't think you need to be very capable for this small matter. This is a false reputation imposed by the world. If I could quit, I would have done so long ago. However, one of the beauties has already passed away, unless you can bring her back to life. That's a pity. To think that someone would be willing to destroy a beauty so ruthlessly. What a waste. Let me propose a toast to her. Li Qingshan took a big gulp of wine. He said it casually, but he didn't think it was a pity. Shui Bing said coldly, Are you still trying to hide it? Isn't the person who ruthlessly destroyed the flower your distinguished self? Me? When? Li Qingshan was shocked. He really didn't know who would specifically come to talk to him like this. That beauty was from the Ma family. She died at the foot of the Galloping Horse City. It was said that the king of chivalry, Li Qingshan, killed her personally. There was a commotion in the restaurant. Manager Hong's eyes widened. He stood up and retreated, tripped over the bench, and fell on his butt. The disciples of the Snow Mountain sect drew their swords and held them in front of them, but no one dared to step forward. The reputation of the king of chivalry was like the sun in the sky in the northern region. Everyone feared him. This small restaurant suddenly became as terrifying as the devil's domain. Li Qingshan tried hard to recall. It seems so. I've killed countless people in my life. It's really hard for me to distinguish beauty from ugliness. I've embarrassed myself, Miss Shui, but I've killed her. Come, let's drink. So you admit it? Shui Bing asked. She mustered all her courage to continue sitting there. Yes, I'm Li Qingshan. Besides, when did I hide anything? If you asked me, I would have told you. At this point, Li Qingshan suddenly stood up. Shui Bing felt a huge shadow covering her, and she almost couldn't breathe. She saw him looking outside the door. The rain has stopped. The summer storm came and went quickly. The dark clouds dispersed, and rays of light fell on the snow mountain, glowing with a holy light. Old man, thank you for the wine. This is the money for the meat. Li Qingshan threw a silver ingot, picked up Luo Ho Xiaoming, and walked out the door. Shui Bing flew in front of the door. Where are you going? Up the mountain, of course. Can't you let the Snow Mountain sect go? How can I let others sleep next to my bed? You call yourself the king of chivalry and say that you will enforce justice on behalf of heaven. The Snow Mountain sect has never bullied the good like the Ma family. If not, there would be no Snow Mountain sect in the world. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill anyone today. But this is the general trend. If you're not a friend or an enemy, you have to end it. I've never done a bad thing in my life. If I stop you, will you kill me? Little girl, look at what you're holding in your hand. A swordsman dies by the sword. What's there to complain about? Get out of the way. You don't want me to become a sworn enemy of the Snow Mountain sect now, do you? Li Qingshan killed one. He didn't care about killing the second one. He destroyed the Ma family. He didn't care about destroying the Snow Mountain sect. Even if he was innocent and good, he just had to bear the sin. There was no need to blame himself or try to defend himself. His determination to move forward would never change. Even if he was a good person for 10 generations, Buddha is born in all. Those who stand in my way will die. Xuebing bit her lips. Her expression changed. She sheathed her sword. Get out of the way. Although this man was called Chivalrous King, the word chivalrous could not restrain him. That's good. Li Qingshan brushed past Xuebing and stepped out of the door. He took a deep breath. The air was filled with the fragrance of the soil after the rain. He stepped on the ground barefoot. He crossed 10 feet with each step and strode towards the snow mountain. Xuebing used her lightness skill and caught up with him. I'll send you up the mountain. All right, let's continue drinking on the mountain. I hope someone will treat me. Li Qingshan smiled and smacked his lips, as if he was still savoring the taste of the wine. If others don't, I will. Xuebing could hear the murderous intent in his words. She knew that the Snow Mountain sect's survival depended on today. Senior sister, junior sister. The disciples of the Snow Mountain sect rushed out of the door. Their figures became 2 small dots as they climbed up the snow mountain. Shopkeeper Hong took a long time to come back to his senses. He was scared and broke out in a cold sweat on such a hot day. That was Li Qingshan. He dared to give him a hard time and teach him a lesson in front of so many people. He really didn't know how to spell the word death. The waiter was so excited that his face turned red. Shopkeeper, did you see that? That's the chivalrous king. Humph, if it weren't for his magnanimity, your head would have been removed. Ouch! Shopkeeper Hong jumped up and took out the martial arts that he hadn't used for many years. He kicked the waiter's butt. You're the one with your head removed. Hurry up and work. The waiter rubbed his butt and said indignantly, Humph, wait until I join the World Assembly and learn a peerless martial arts. Let's see if you still dare to kick me then. Shopkeeper Hong smiled bitterly and murmured to himself, You live up to your reputation. Now, the Snow Mountain sect is in trouble. Li Qingshan didn't follow the right path. He crossed the river and climbed over the ravine. He crossed the snow line and looked back at the white clouds. After a short pause, Xuebing caught up with him. She was already out of breath. She had just reached the innate realm, so her genuine qi wasn't as abundant as before. Do you want to rest for a while? Li Qingshan asked with a smile. No need. Xuebing clenched her teeth. She was now representing the Snow Mountain sect. However, Li Qingshan lay down and basked in the sun comfortably. Xuebing quickly sat down to regulate her breathing. He didn't deliberately embarrass her. She couldn't help but feel grateful. However, she felt strange. He's here to deal with the Snow Mountain sect. Why should I be grateful to him? Chivalrous King, you went up the mountain alone. Aren't you afraid of getting trapped there? Are you worried about my safety? I'm advising you to back off. Li Qingshan laughed loudly. His voice was so loud that it shook the clouds. Xuebing suddenly felt that it was a pity for a man like him to be trapped in a desperate situation. She shook her head and felt that it was ridiculous. There were so many people in the world who wanted to kill him. If there was a chance, she wouldn't let it go. However, who could stop him? I'm done resting. Let's go. Voices came from the main hall of the Snow Mountain sect. A man anxiously advised, Leader Shui, your disciple can testify that the devil Li Qingshan has piled up corpses like a mountain. He's bloodthirsty. He won't let the Snow Mountain sect go. Please make a decision quickly and fight against the world society together. Yes, Master. It's impossible for the Snow Mountain sect to fight against the world society alone. We can only fight with all the people in the martial arts world. In the hall, a group of elders gathered together. Everyone had a worried look on their faces. Sect leader Shui Hanfeng was silent. At this moment, a man and a woman walked into the hall. Shui Hanfeng was surprised. Chapter 1205. Li Qingshan looked at the two people who spoke. They were an old man and a young man. He had seen them outside of Galloping Horse City. They were the innate masters who surrounded the former Alliance Master Zhang, Yuntian. They escaped when Gu Yening was possessed. The young man was a handsome young man dressed in white. He was a disciple of the Snow Mountain faction. The old man was obviously here to persuade them. It seemed that there were still people who were not willing to lose and wanted to compete with him. Everyone in the hall was shocked. The sound of swords being unsheathed could be heard. Binger, come here quickly, Shui Hanfeng said as he activated the faction's formation. The temperature in the hall dropped sharply. It was the height of summer, but at this moment the air became foggy. Li Qingshan felt the cold air getting heavier. A layer of frost condensed under his feet and quickly spread up. Li Qingshan ignored him. He pointed at the old man who tried to persuade him and flicked his thumb backwards. The old man felt as if he had been pardoned. He dashed out of the door and left. Everyone was shocked. He was a famous figure for many years, but he ran away without saying a word. He did not know that after seeing Li Qingshan kill people, he did not have the courage to face him. He was not afraid of dying in battle, but he did not want to be crushed to death like a bug. Stop, Li Qingshan shouted. The old man had just crossed the threshold. When he heard this, he stood there as if he was nailed to the ground. He did not dare to move. Li Qingshan said without turning his head, Hey, I have spared your life twice. Why don't you say thank you? The old man's expression changed. He bowed his head and cupped his hands. Thank you for sparing my life. I can do it twice, but not thrice. If it happens again, you should join the world faction. The old man raised his head and looked at Li Qingshan's back. He nodded heavily. All right. He then said to Shui Hanfeng, Leader Shui, I have known you for many years. I know that you are kind and righteous. You cannot bear to see the Snow Mountain faction end up like the Ma family. You should surrender. He let out another heavy sigh and left without looking back. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was the one who spoke for them? Li Qingshan glanced at the young man in white again. He was like a mouse that had seen a cat. He shivered and lowered his head, not saying a word. Shui Bing felt a wave of pain in her heart. Was this still the arrogant eldest senior brother of the past? Shui Hanfeng solemnly cupped his hands. I am Shui Hanfeng, the 19th generation sect leader of the Snow Mountain sect. The chivalrous king has graced us with your presence, and I apologize for not going out to meet you. Sect leader Shui, let's cut to the chase. Do you want to fight or surrender? Li Qingshan took a step forward. With a loud boom, the great hall trembled and the frost scattered. I don't know how to fight or surrender. If you really want to fight, then let's do it together. There was no need to be so particular. If you surrender, there will no longer be the Snow Mountain sect. There will only be the Snow Mountain Hall of the World Assembly, and you will still be the Hall Master. Everyone's heart sank. They wanted to destroy the Snow Mountain sect, if not for the words left by the old man just now. He was afraid that there would be people scolding him immediately. At this moment, they all stepped forward with their swords, showing that they would live and die with the Snow Mountain sect. Only the young man in white did not move. He stared blankly at the ground and murmured, "It's useless. It's useless." Schwebing no longer looked at him. The eldest senior brother of the past was already dead. He was not killed by others, but by fright. She pulled away from Li Qingshan and returned to her father's side. Then she looked back. Li Qingshan stood in front of the hall, unmoving, like a mountain. The demonic aura he emitted filled the hall, like a black cloud pressing on the snow mountain. It was almost impossible to compare it with the restaurant that was in a sorry state. She thought of the smiling man who was scolded by the manager. But when she looked carefully, she found that there was no change in him. His bright round eyes seemed to always be smiling, but at this moment there was a playful look in them. Xue Hanfeng took a deep breath. The Snow Mountain sect and the World Assembly will mind our own business. I am willing to give up everything at the foot of the mountain. I swear that I will never be the enemy of the World Assembly. Li Qingshan shook his head. No, I have already said this to your daughter. The general trend is irresistible. If you are not an enemy, then you must be a friend. There is no room for indifference. Xue Hanfeng was also irritated. You are pushing us too far. The Snow Mountain sect has been passed down for hundreds of years. How can it be destroyed in my hands? Leader Xue, you are really stubborn. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are inevitable. Creation, existence, destruction, and emptiness are all things. You can take a long-term view. When I unify the world, there will be no difference between sections. This is the general trend. Those who follow it will prosper, and those who go against it will die. If the Snow Mountain sect becomes the Snow Mountain Hall, it will be more prosperous. It will be reborn in your hands. Li Qingshan opened his arms. He looked like he could swallow the world. The expression on his face did not look like he was saying some heroic words. Instead, it looked like it was natural for him to eat and drink. Xue Hanfeng clenched his fists. He had never encountered such a difficult choice in his life. Suddenly, he sighed and waved his hand. The temperature in the hall began to rise again. Leader, you can't do that. I would rather die than join the World Assembly. The crowd in the hall was furious. Xue Bing bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with tears. Was this man, who was as majestic as a mountain in her heart, going to surrender to that man's shadow? Li Qingshan smiled. That is a wise move. Xue Hanfeng slowly pulled out his sword and pointed it at Li Qingshan. Leader Xue, what do you mean? Xue Hanfeng said decisively. As the leader, if I surrender without a fight, how can I face my ancestors? I only want a fair fight. I want to see the peerless martial arts of the hero king. Why? Li Qingshan could see that he was ready to die. He admired him a little. Father, don't. Xue Bing said in panic. She would rather him surrender than die. Leader, you don't have to worry about the rules of Jianghu. Let's fight together. Bing, stand down. Xue Hanfeng said to the crowd. If I lose, the Snow Mountain sect will become the Snow Mountain Hall. No one is allowed to avenge me. This is the order of the leader. Li Qingshan smiled. Sect Master Xue, if I kill you, let alone the others, your daughter will hate me for the rest of her life. If she attacks me, all I can do is give her a swift death. I really can't bring myself to do that. Fine. I respect you as a man who has done many chivalrous deeds. Today, if I touch a finger of yours or take half a step back, I lose. What do you think? Xue Bing was pleasantly surprised. Her expression was complicated. She didn't know whether she should thank him or hate him. Xue Hanfeng agreed. Okay, it's a deal. He thought, even if your martial arts are peerless, if you can't even touch a finger of mine, how can you win? His sword made a flower. The bright blue flower did not dissipate. The flower bloomed in the air, layer by layer. It was like snowflakes piling up, getting thicker and thicker. His first move was the mega avalanche of the Snow Mountain Sect's supreme skill, the bright snow swordsmanship. As expected, Li Qingshan did not move at all. He allowed him to build up his power. Everyone was extremely nervous. Suddenly, they heard a yawn. Luo Ho Xiaoming climbed onto his shoulder. He drowsily held his head and looked around lazily. Xue Hanfeng frowned. I am the leader of the Snow Mountain Sect. How can I attack a young child? Is this his plot? Li Qingshan smiled. Leader Xue, you don't have to worry. If you kill this kid, it's on me. Watch my sword. Xue Hanfeng made up his mind. He raised his aura to its peak. True qi surged like a raging wave. Only then did Li Qingshan stretch out his hand. His fingers were slightly open. Waves of demonic energy gathered in his hand, but it did not burst out. Xue Hanfeng suddenly stopped in midair. The dazzling flower of his sword froze. It was as if it was sealed in an invisible amber. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. Everyone's eyes widened. They could not see what move Li Qingshan had used. It looked like he had just stretched out his hand, and Xue Hanfeng had been defeated. Just as he said, he had not touched a single finger. Father! Xue Bing hurried over to support him. Xue Hanfeng pushed her hand away and stood up. His heart was full of resentment. What kind of martial art is this? It's not martial art. It's magic. The first magic of the ape demon transformation. Magic? Are you a demon? Yes and no, no and no. What is your relationship with the White Ape King? Nothing. I just cut off his head. You lost. Xue Bing shouted at Li Qingshan. How did I lose? You said you would not touch a single finger of my father, but you heavily injured him. Does magic not count? Sigh, women are really unreasonable. Why don't you ask your father if I hurt him? Bing, no need to quibble. I lost. Xue Hanfeng could not be clearer. All the injuries he had suffered were caused by the rebound of his true qi. Xue Bing lowered her head sadly, tears streaming down her face. Cheating. Luo Ho Xiaoming curled his lips. Li Qingshan's magic had no offensive power at all. It could not even kill an ant. But the effect of this magic had shocked him the first time he had seen it. This was not some body-fixing spell, but a direct sealing of the void. Xue Hanfeng, the leader of the Snow Mountain Hall, greets the Hero King. Xue Hanfeng stepped forward and bowed. The elders and disciples of the Snow Mountain Sect, whether they were willing or not, also came forward and bowed. In the martial arts world, the strong were respected. As the first senior brother of the Snow Mountain Sect, the young man in white let out a great sigh of relief as well. He felt like this was the best possible outcome, but he was also worried about whether Li Qingshan had overheard what he had said earlier in the hall and developed a grudge against him. Li Qingshan said, Leader Xue, listen to my order. Yes. Li Qingshan smiled and said, Bring the wine. Xue Hanfeng was startled. He thought it was an important order. I did not drink to my heart's content at the foot of the mountain. Let's continue. Your daughter said so. Xue Bing remembered what he said at the foot of the mountain and did not know whether to laugh or cry. That night, there was a banquet in the hall. Xue Hanfeng took the opportunity to ask, "Your Highness, what do you want the Snow Mountain sect to do?" Li Qingshan pondered for a while and spread his hands. "I also do not know." Xue Hanfeng was speechless. "Did you destroy the Snow Mountain sect just to have a drink? This is too unfair. I was bored in the Galloping Horse City, so I came out to play. I am not the leader of the world. I do not care about these trivial matters. When we get to the Galloping Horse City, you can ask him yourself." Li Qingshan said impatiently, "Drink! Drink!" Xue Hanfeng's eyes widened. He could not suppress his internal injuries and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Father! Father!" Xue Bing rushed forward. "Your father is drunk. Quickly send him back to rest." Xue Bing raised her eyebrows. "How is he drunk? He was obviously angered by you. P.S. Chapter 1207. Xue Hanfeng bowed and left. Xue Bing helped him back to the backyard. Xue Hanfeng looked up at the crescent moon in the sky, floating in the sea of clouds. Suddenly, tears rolled down his cheeks, and he sighed, "Bing, the Snow Mountain sect is gone." As soon as he said this, he seemed to age 10 years. "Father!" Xue Bing's tears fell like rain. "The world is in chaos once the demon star appears. Maybe it's fate." "It's not fate." Xue Bing came out from the backyard. A handsome young man came up to her. "Junior Marshal's sister, Master, is he okay?" "Sigh, that kind of power is not something a human can fight against. Maybe following the World Assembly is the best choice. And this is without the heroic lord using his sword. What a blessing in disguise." "Is the banquet over? Where is the heroic lord now?" Xue Bing asked coldly. "Admiring the moon on the flying snow cliff. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make a deal with him." Xue Bing walked towards the flying snow cliff. You, eldest senior brother, seemed to have realized something. He wanted to follow her, but he could only watch as her figure disappeared. Li Qingshan's legs dangled off the cliff. He looked up at the new moon in the sky and wondered if the moon was the same as the 9 prefectures. Was little and also looking at the same moon. Footsteps sounded behind him. Li Qingshan turned around and asked, "How's your father?" The moonlight shone on Xue Bing's face. It seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. She cupped her hands and said, "Heroic lord, you said in the restaurant at the foot of the mountain that you want to marry the world's top 10 beauties." Li Qingshan corrected, 9 beauties. "Yes, I like 9. I can be the first. Wives, concubines, and servants are fine. As long as you let the Snow Mountain sect go, I'll be yours." Xue Bing puffed out her chest and said sternly. Li Qingshan laughed out loud. "What are you laughing at?" Xue Bing was embarrassed into anger. "I'm laughing at you for thinking too highly of the Snow Mountain sect and underestimating yourself. You should go to Galloping Horse City and meet that World Association leader. She doesn't even care about her own father." Everything Xue Bing had came from the Snow Mountain sect. She thought that Li Qingshan was laughing at her for not being qualified to make such an exchange. Hearing this, she couldn't help but feel moved. No one had ever said such a thing to her. It is rumored that the World Society's leader is Gu Yenying. She was the #1 beauty in the world. It's a pity that we didn't get to meet. That was just added by someone else. In her heart, there is no such thing as a beauty. That's right, even in front of me, she wouldn't be willing to be the second best in the world. "Prince, do you like her very much?" Xue Bing asked. She was curious about the woman who could make him reveal such an expression. What would it look like? Li Qingshan pondered for a moment and smiled calmly. That's right. What if she was here to make this deal? Xue Bing suddenly felt a trace of jealousy. She won't. Then I am different from her. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for the peace of the Snow Mountain sect. If one day you fly high enough, you will find that this snow mountain is just a small mound. But you see, my vision is quite accurate. If it wasn't for this guy, I would have pounced on it now and then denied everything. Li Qingshan brought up Luo Ho Xiaoming again. Luo Ho Xiaoming glared at him. Whatever, I have seen this kind of thing many times. Shui Bing's face turned red. Is this also called the Hero King? Bullshit, Hero King. It's just an empty title. By the way, I have a peerless secret book here. It's called Gui Water Condensing Chi Method. Do you want to exchange it? I guarantee that I will not cheat anyone. If you buy it, you will make a profit. Shui Bing was stunned for a moment. She fiercely stamped her feet. No, she came here to sacrifice herself for the Snow Mountain sect, not to sell herself for some peerless secret book. She was almost led into a ditch by this man. It was really infuriating. That's a pity. Li Qingshan had an expression of, "You've lost a lot," on his face. He asked again, "You really don't want to exchange?" "No, I'll take my leave." Shui Bing angrily clasped her hands together. However, she saw Li Qingshan's expression change. He sneered and said, "You have to exchange, even if you don't want to." She felt that her body could not move. She was shocked. Was he going to? Li Qingshan walked towards her step by step. He raised his hand and sealed her acupuncture points. The time she could maintain her supernatural power was really too short. Shui Bing saw his face coming towards her. She couldn't help but close her eyes. However, she heard him say in her ear, "Listen carefully." Then, she heard a series of incantations. She opened her eyes in shock. However, she saw him smiling mischievously. "Don't say any more. I don't want to listen." Li Qingshan ignored her. He smiled and recited the Gui Water Condensing Chi Method. This was the first incantation that he had learned. He could still remember it clearly. He did not miss a single word. Shui Bing's body relaxed. Her acupuncture points were unsealed. She saw that he had already walked back to the edge of the cliff. She looked at the rising dark clouds in the sky. It was gradually swallowing a new moon. Without turning her head, she said, "All right, I'm leaving. You guard me." "Where are you going? Who's going to guard you? I never agreed to trade. I've already forgotten everything you said." This kind of forceful and overbearing behavior made her furious. However, when she heard that he was leaving, she felt a trace of reluctance. "I know you remember. As for where to go, this Hero King naturally wants to be a hero. At the same time, I'll take a look at the other 8 beauties." "You're going alone?" Shui Bing understood. The 8 beauties represented the 5 major sects and 3 major clans. If he were to go, he would probably become the enemy of the entire martial world. 2 people. Hey, don't always ignore Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming is very important. Li Qingshan lifted up Luo Ho Xiaoming and shook him vigorously. Luo Ho Xiaoming squinted at him. His body emitted waves of killing intent. If this went on, his fighting spirit would recover before the red lotus bloomed. "Hero King, there are countless strange people in the world. They all have cunning methods. Even if you have peerless martial arts, you might not be able to escape unscathed. Are you worried about me?" "Of course not. I'm worried that you'll make the Snow Mountain sect the laughingstock of the world. So, I hope that you can defeat all the sects and clans." "Ha! Thank you for your kind words." Li Qingshan suddenly frowned and said in distress, "By the way, aren't there any cute little nuns in Pudu Temple?" He had to see the demon star suppressed by Pudu Temple. Extracting the spiritual power from it might help him recover a lot of strength. "Of course not," Shui Bing said impatiently. Li Qingshan clapped his hands. "Yes, they don't have one. I'll give them one. Then we'll have the world's top 10 beauties again." Are you serious? Xue Bing widened her eyes at his whimsical, good idea. She felt angry and funny at the same time. Yes, you're the first. Li Qingshan grinned and jumped off the cliff. I'm not. Xue Bing ran to the edge of the cliff and shouted. She only got a burst of laughter in response. She watched his figure disappear into the darkness. The experience of this short half a day was like a dream. There was fear, sadness, hatred, surprise, gratitude, and admiration. In the end, it was like a joke. No man had ever touched her heart like this. I hope you can come back safely. P.S. I drank a little yesterday and felt a little emotional, but I also know that there must be a lot of opinions. They think that you're so slow, but you have the nerve to nag here. You're shameless to ask for monthly votes. I understand that the deeper the love, the deeper the responsibility. I've always felt guilty. Even if I tried my best, I still couldn't do it. I didn't even have the confidence to say, I wrote slowly because I wrote well. Chapter 12:08. Li Qingshan descended the snowy mountain and sprinted southward. At this time, the benefits of a pocket world became apparent. Relying on the endless power of the earth, he ran hundreds of miles overnight and arrived at the middle realm at daybreak. If not for the thunderstorm, he would have been even faster. The weather was obviously much hotter. A red sun rose from the east and soon became daytime, radiating a blazing light that roasted the earth. Li Qingshan finally stopped. He did not feel tired, but his stomach was growling. He found a main road and walked to see if he could find a city wall along the way to have a big meal. At the same time, he seriously thought about his grand plan. There were no aristocratic families in the middle realm, only many gangs and sections. Among them, there were 3 great sects: Pudu Temple, Mysterious Void Temple, and Divine Wind Sect. There was also the world-famous Black Tortoise City, which was where Martial Union was located. The Profound Void Temple and the Divine Wind Sect each possessed one of the 10 great beauties of the world, but Li Qingshan's first target was the Pudu Temple. No matter how he wanted to play around, he would have to increase his strength first before he could play to his heart's content. He had to obtain the Demon Star. However, there was a problem. There were no beauties in Pudu Temple. This was originally a joke. If he was just a lecher, there was no need to force a beauty into a monk temple. However, his personality was influenced by the demonic ape. The more he joked, the more serious he became. He threw the serious matter of conquering the world to the back of his mind, leaving it to Gu Yening to think about. However, he was not familiar with this world. Where could he find a beauty? He could not just find a random woman. She had to be qualified, not to mention her appearance. Her martial arts could not be too weak. It would be best if she had a certain reputation and social recognition. However, he did not think about it. Who would recognize a top 10 beauty from a monk temple? However, when he thought about the expressions of the monks, he found it very interesting and could not help but laugh out loud. Rather than being influenced by the demonic ape, it was better to say that his nature was stimulated. Who is behind you? As he thought about it, a bellow rang out from up ahead. A group of guards stopped in the dust, staring at Li Qingshan cautiously as he strode over. Li Qingshan's eyes lit up. He was not familiar with this world, but there was always someone he was familiar with, so he just had to ask. A man with a full beard rode his horse forward and thought to himself, his speed is astonishing. He must be a Xiantian master. The newcomer was definitely not a nobody. We need to be careful. He cupped his hands and said, I am Ho Zhen of the Chongfeng Escort Agency. May I know your name? May I know why you are here? Chivalrous King Li Qingshan. I'm here to rob you, Li Qingshan said concisely. Li Qingshan. Ho Jun looked as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He was so shocked that he almost fell off his horse. The armed escorts were also in an uproar. In the short span of 3 months, Li Qingshan's name had spread all over the world. There was no one who did not know of him. There were even many people in the northern region who praised him. In other places, he was a murderous demon king. Li Qingshan walked forward, and the escorts retreated. He patted the carriage and asked, "What are you escorting?" "Just some gold and silver. Chivalrous king is rich in the northern region. Why would he be interested in a mere escort?" Ho Jun dismounted, his back hunched. His expression was bitter as if he had eaten 3 caddies of bitter medicine. If this was a nameless person, then there would be no famous person in the world. "Let me ask you a question. If you can answer it, I won't rob you any more." "Chivalrous king, please ask." Ho Jun's heart sank. He did not think that Huang Xiaolong would be so easy to talk to. This question was either to make things difficult for him or to probe into Martial Union's secrets. Where are the most beauties in the world? No, where are the most beauties in the Middle Region? Li Qingshan did not want to beat around the bush. Ho Jun was stunned, wondering if he had misheard. This murderous demon king chased after him just to ask such a question? Li Qingshan raised his hand impatiently, and the carriage flew out, crashing into a large tree by the side of the road. The tree broke into 2, and bright silver scattered on the ground. Ho Jun quivered, cupping his hands as he said, reporting to Chivalrous King, "The beauties in the Middle Region are naturally in Black Tortoise City." "Then what famous beauties are there in Black Tortoise City?" "There is a Miss Huxian, in the Myriad Flower Brothel. She is known as a fairy descended from heaven, and she is definitely one of the top 10 beauties in the world." "Then where's Black Tortoise City?" Li Qingshan's eyes lit up again. He never thought there would be such a suitable candidate. He really did not take any effort at all. "Follow this road and head south. Black Tortoise City is less than 500 miles away." Li Qingshan left as soon as he said he would, taking large strides towards Black Tortoise City. For a moment, he even forgot about his hunger. Ho Jun raised his head and looked for a long time. After confirming that the figure had already disappeared into the horizon, he wiped the sweat off his forehead, discovering that he looked as if he had just been fished out of water. An old escort said, "Chief Escort, is an Alliance Master Zhang holding a martial arts conference in Black Tortoise City to discuss how to deal with the world faction? And that Huxian, didn't she announce to the world that no matter who can get rid of Li Qingshan, whether they are young or old, monk or commoner, they will be willing to devote their lives to him?" "Humph, that's exactly what I want to lure him to Black Tortoise City. Right now, all the heroes of the world are gathered in the city. The leaders of the 6 great sects and the masters of the 3 great aristocratic families are all there. That Huxian is not simple either. I heard that as long as a man has seen her face, he will be willing to lose his life for her. This time, he dares to head south to Black Tortoise City alone. He has stepped into a trap. A young escort came over to fawn over him. Chief Escort is really brave. You can still think of such things in such an urgent situation. I'm not afraid of everyone laughing at me, but I was so scared just now that my stomach and legs were cramping. No one would laugh at him. Just now, who wasn't scared half to death?" Furthermore, there were rumors in the martial world that even Alliance Master Zhang had to obediently give up his position as Alliance Master when he saw Li Qingshan. In his eyes, a mere escort was probably not even comparable to an ant. Everyone was full of praises and praised the chief escort for being wise and mighty. It was as if they had all gone blind. They could not see Ho Jun's legs, which were still trembling under the sun. "Immediately ride my horse back to the escort agency. Use a messenger pigeon to notify Black Tortoise City. Tell them that the great demon Li Qingshan is about to arrive. Hozhen knew very well that his mind was blank at that time. He did not dare to say a single lie, so there was no way he could think so much. As for whether the heroes of Black Tortoise City would be able to take down Li Qingshan, or whether Miss Huxian would be in big trouble, that was not something he could care about. After all, he was not the one who would die. In Black Tortoise City, the martial arts circle convention that gathered all the heroes of the world had sunk into a gloomy atmosphere. A moment ago, the old man who was sent to Snow Mountain Sect to act as a lobbyist came back on his 1,000-li horse. He only said one thing. Snow Mountain Sect might have already fallen. I'm leaving. I definitely can't meet him a third time, or else I will have to join the World Assembly. Chapter 1209. Under the illumination of the brilliant lights, a large round table was carved with the word Wu in the middle, surrounded by the carvings of the 12 zodiac signs and the 12 seasons. The outermost part was carved with 12 pictures, namely a whirlwind, a snowflake, a Buddha, and a Pegasus. These were the symbols of the world's 7 major sects and 4 major families. The specially empty seat corresponded to the dragon of the 12 zodiac signs. The Chun of the 12 seasons was to commemorate the first leader of the Wulin Alliance, Long Patian. He had single-handedly established the Wulin Alliance and established the order of the Wulin world for hundreds of years. Later, he shattered the void and left, becoming a legend. However, he was not born in an aristocratic family or a sect, so he was known to the outside world. Currently, the people sitting here were the leaders of the various families and sections. But now, there were 2 more empty seats, a Pegasus and a Snowflake. They belonged to the Ma family and the Snow Mountain sect. Now, everyone knew that no one would come to these 2 seats. There were more people sitting on the periphery. They were the heroes who had been summoned. At this moment, all of them looked at Zhang Yuntian in silence. The Wulin Alliance had been established for hundreds of years. Every time a demonic sect brought disaster to the Wulin world, the Wulin Alliance would convene a Wulin assembly to suppress them. But there had never been a scene like this. The leader of the Wulin Alliance had actually quit. Abbot Fu Ku of the Pudu Temple chanted the name of Buddha and advised, Amitba, Almsgiver Zhang, you're wrong. I was forced by the situation outside the Galloping Horse City. The position of the Wulin Alliance is not something that can be taken away with just a few words. It's a pity that my junior brother Fu, who hated evil and killed evil all his life, died in the hands of this demon. The head of the Xuanxu Temple also said, what Master said makes sense. A few days ago, there was a rumor that my senior brother also died in the hands of the demon. Now it has been confirmed. His corpse has been transported back from the northern region, but it's badly mutilated. It's really sad to see Li Qingshan. This demon is too cruel and intolerable. Zhang Yuntian sighed. My condolences, you too. I'm also a survivor of a disaster. I just want to stay alive in this chaotic world. I really don't want to be involved in these Wulin disputes anymore. However, he sneered inside. An important figure from each sect had died to Li Qingshan's hands. Their grievances were basically irreconcilable. The Snow Mountain sect could go with the flow and surrender to the World Union, but they could not. Naturally, he could only resist with determination. The master of the Lu family of the eastern region slammed the table and stood up. That devil is still roaming freely in the northern region. Now is not the time to grieve. Alliance leader Zhang already has half a foot in the sky, but have you ever thought about what will happen to the Divine Wind sect when that devil head goes south? Don't tell me you are going to watch helplessly as it gets destroyed by that devil head. Although the world is big, we have no way to retreat. The Ma family and the Snow Mountain sect are already examples. If we still don't unite, we might as well join the World Assembly now. Forget about bowing down to that Li Qingshan. Why are you still holding the martial arts circle assembly? The other two aristocratic families immediately agreed. The Ma family of the northern region was really miserable. Zhang Yuntian remained silent, but in his heart he thought, you aristocratic families usually do whatever you want. Do you know fear now? Everyone tried to persuade Zhang Yuntian to stay. Normally, the various sects would fight for the position of alliance leader. Now, however, it had become a hot potato. After thinking about it, they could only let Zhang Yuntian continue as the alliance leader. At the very least, Li Qingshan's first attack would not be directed at them. Even if they failed in the end, it would still be the alliance leader and the entire martial union's failure. Zhang Yuntian pondered for a long time. Finally, he said, I can continue as the alliance leader, but I want the divine dragon jade seal to wield the authority of the great alliance leader. Great alliance leader. Everyone was shocked. Since the establishment of martial union, there had only been one great alliance leader, and that was the first alliance leader, Long Patian. Not only did Long Patian wield the power of life and death, but he could also abolish patriarchs and sect leaders at will. Alliance leader Zhang, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. Someone immediately objected. Who would be willing to place their lives in the hands of others? The difference between alliance leader and great alliance leader is only a single word. We are just following orders, so why go through the trouble? It's too stuffy here. I'll go outside to get some fresh air. Why don't you all discuss this properly here? As long as a single person disagrees, I'll immediately retreat from Black Tortoise City and return to the Divine Wind sect to enter closed-door training. Zhang Yuntian flicked his sleeves and left. I don't have that much authority, yet you want me to bear such a heavy responsibility? Dream on. A young girl stood up and chased after Zhang Yuntian. Wind blew under her feet, and not a speck of dust landed on her body. Her movement technique was top-notch, and her appearance was exquisite. If it were any other day, there would definitely be many people cheering for her. Now, however, no one was in the mood to do so. They all lowered their heads and pondered over Zhang Yuntian's words. On the high platform, Zhang Yuntian recalled the night of the Fiend Star's descent. A young girl's voice rang out from behind him. Master, is that demon really that powerful? Could it be that even so many experts couldn't do anything to him? Zhang Yuntian looked at the young girl, and a smile appeared on his face. Xianfeng, you didn't see it, but he's not just powerful. He killed Ma Xingkong across the river, and then he killed tiger-subduing monk in front of us. I didn't even see how he attacked. How is that possible? Zhang Xianfeng was speechless. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Even if Long Patian was still alive, he wouldn't be his match. But I believe he's not invincible. If it's a battle of attrition, he might have a chance of winning, but the person leading the charge will definitely die. Then, Master, you must not lead the charge. Zhang Xuanfeng's face was filled with concern. Why would Master do such a stupid thing? Zhang Yuntian sneered. The great alliance leader could order others to die. Moreover, he discovered a big secret in the divine dragon jade seal left behind by Long Patian. It wasn't impossible for him to defeat Li Qingshan. Even if he couldn't win, he could still shatter the void and ascend. At that time, no matter how chaotic the world was, what did it have to do with Zhang Yuntian? Zhang Xianfeng suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Zhang Yuntian said gently, "The boat will cross the bridge when it comes to it. You don't have to worry too much. Do whatever you want. Yes, with Master here, I'm not afraid of that Li Qingshan." Zhang Xianfeng smiled innocently and thought to himself, "Do whatever I want? It's not like I'm going to die soon. It seems like I can't even rely on Master this time. Forget it. This has nothing to do with me. When that Li Qingshan comes, I'll immediately pack up and run. It's better than becoming a ghost under the blade of the Ma family's Mississippi Sigh. I could have sold my body. After all, I'm one of the top 10 beauties in the world. But I heard that Li Qingshan is actually a monkey. He doesn't know how to distinguish between beauty and ugliness. I'm afraid this trick won't work." Both master and disciple had their own thoughts, but they had the same thought. The day gradually shifted, and the Liu family's patriarch personally came to the bottom of the stage. "Alliance leader, everyone invites you to go back." Zhang Yuntian smiled and was about to jump off the stage when he suddenly turned around. A gray pigeon was flying from the north. Chapter 12:10. Jejia, there is actually someone who dares to ask this old man. An old man turned around, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth with a sinister green face. "Who are you? If you don't know, I'll go ask someone else." "Kid, you actually don't know who I am? Go back and prepare for your funeral." The old man waved his chicken claw-like hand. "So it's a madman, this wretched heavens, giving me trouble even by asking a question." Li Qingshan cursed. There were so many people on the street, and any one of them was a madman. His luck was truly terrible. If he knew this old man's identity, he would know that his luck was not just terrible, but downright terrible. This old man was the Five Venoms cult master, an expert of the demonic path who was as famous as the Seven Slaughtering Demon Lord and the Phantom Dancer. His poison techniques were unparalleled in the martial world, and he was even more famous for his viciousness. After the Five Venoms cult was destroyed by Martial Union, he went into hiding, taking advantage of the chaos in the martial world to reappear. This time, he snuck into Black Tortoise City to do something earth-shattering. Just now, with a wave of his hand, he had already poisoned Li Qingshan. "You dare curse me? I originally wanted to give you some time to prepare for your funeral. Die now." The Five Venoms cult master's expression sank, and he activated his poison techniques. Li Qingshan felt his palm go numb, and his palm turned blue rapidly. He knew that he had been poisoned, and he could not help but be enraged. He did not provoke anyone, and he just asked a random question. Yet he encountered such a thing. If you listen to this old man obediently, you can keep your life. Otherwise, before the Five Venoms cult master could finish his sentence, he suddenly found himself unable to move. A slap landed on his face, and he spat out a mouthful of yellow teeth. "Who told you to poison me?" Li Qingshan pressed down on the Five Venoms cult master and gave him a good beating. He then sealed all of the Five Venoms cult master's major acupoints before lifting him up from the ground. "Where is the Myriad Flower Pavilion?" The Five Venoms cult master stretched out his chicken claw-like hand, trembling as he pointed in a certain direction. He then narrowed his eyes at Li Qingshan, his heart filled with hatred. He did not think that after roaming the world for so long, even Martial Union could not do anything to him. He would fail miserably. Fortunately, the other party did not know his identity. "Later, when the poison takes effect, I'll make you die a horrible death." How dare you glare at me?" Li Qingshan raised his hand and gave him another slap. Then he picked up the Five Venoms cult master and ran away with large strides. "If you dare to lie to me, just wait and see how I will deal with you." "Greetings, Great Alliance Master." Inside Martial Union's discussion hall, Zhang Yuntian sat on his throne, a solemn expression on his face as he accepted everyone's worship. He had become the second great alliance master in Martial Union's history, yet he was in an extremely foul mood. After everyone had paid their respects, he took out the messenger pigeon and announced, "I've just received news that Li Qingshan has gone south alone. He's heading straight for Black Tortoise City. No, he might already be here." Before he finished speaking, cries of alarm sounded out. Everyone's expression changed. As for the group of innate experts who had met with Li Qingshan before, they all looked towards the main entrance at the same time. Seeing that there was no sign of Li Qingshan, they calmed down a little, but they still seemed restless. "What should we do? How dare that devil?" "I'm afraid. He has nothing to fear. The skilled are bold. Hurry up and close the city gates. We can't let him sneak into the city." Zhang Yuntian shook his head. If a city wall could stop Li Qingshan, what was there to be afraid of? This was clearly a mess. How could these people still be considered martial arts experts? They were simply a bunch of country bumpkins who would turn pale at the mere mention of a tiger. The mysterious Void Temple Master said, "Alliance Master, for you to be so calm, do you already have a plan to deal with this devil?" "As far as I know, his target isn't here, but the Myriad Flower Tower in the city." "Myriad Flower Tower?" "Yeah, he's not here for us, but for Hussein, Amitba, as expected. He's a lecher." Hearing this, everyone involuntarily heaved a sigh of relief. But who knows? He heard that we're holding a Martial Union conference here. Will he come looking for us? Zhang Yuntian changed the topic, and the atmosphere immediately tensed up. "What should we do now?" "Alliance Master, please give the order." "This matter concerns the lives of everyone here, and I can't make the decision alone. Right now, we only have two options. Either we rush to the Myriad Flower Tower and fight with that Li Qingshan. Our lives are up to fate. Or we stay here and set up an ambush, waiting for him to walk into the trap," Zhang Yuntian said expressionlessly. The first option was to fight with their lives on the line. As the saying goes, "You have the mace, I have the skull." They were betting on Li Qingshan's stamina. But even if they were lucky enough to win the bet, many people here had seen Li Qingshan's speed when he flew across the river. If he wanted to leave, who could stop him? In the end, even if they died, they would most likely die in vain. As for the second option, everyone understood it. Don't be fooled by the beautiful words of setting up an ambush and walking into the trap. They were just hoping that Li Qingshan didn't take them seriously and prayed that he wouldn't come to them. Otherwise, they would still have to fight with their lives on the line. This was really the only option left. Everyone here was a person of status, and they couldn't just run away without even seeing his shadow. What would that look like? The hall fell into an awkward silence. Everyone looked at each other, and their faces were all a little embarrassed. At dusk, in front of the Myriad Flower Tower, rows of red lanterns were hung high. The smell of wine and food, mixed with the fragrance of cosmetics, assaulted their nostrils. Li Qingshan's stomach growled again. He was still carrying the leader of the Five Venoms sect, which instantly attracted a lot of attention. But in the blink of an eye, he was once again immersed in the singing of women. "You, how are you fine?" the leader of the Five Venoms sect said in surprise. At this time, Li Qingshan should have died from the poison. "Humph, with that little poison of yours, how could it do anything to me?" Li Qingshan had only used a bit of power of wish. No matter how ingenious the design of the heavens was, its use was still very limited. He then said, "Looks like your martial arts aren't weak, and you can be considered to have some reputation in the martial arts world. How about it? Do you want to follow me?" Who exactly are you?" "Ha, you actually don't know who I am." Li Qingshan stepped into the Myriad Flower Tower, and saw that the upper and lower floors were filled to the brim. There was only a high platform in the middle that was empty. A maid came up to welcome him. "Dear guest, today is full. Please come back another day. Where is Husian Air? Let her come out. Her luck has come." Li Qingshan's eyes swept around, and he saw a familiar person upstairs. He couldn't help but laugh. "Bring some wine and meat out first. Someone help me reserve a good spot." "Who are you? How dare you call Lady Xian Air's name directly?" The people in the tower were instantly enraged. "All of you, shut up!" An angry roar shook everyone's eardrums, and the true qi contained within was even more shocking. But the person who spoke was not Li Qingshan. Under everyone's gaze, an old man slowly walked down from upstairs. His expression was as heavy as if his father had died. He walked straight in front of Li Qingshan and bowed deeply. "This subordinate greets your highness." Chapter 12:11. The building suddenly quieted down. Only the sound of string instruments could be heard. Many people might not know who Prince was, but they knew the identity of this old man. He was a famous figure in the pugilistic world. They thought he came down to teach this madman a lesson. So why did he pay respect to him? Dispense with the formalities. "You are quite trustworthy." Li Qingshan patted the old man's shoulder in praise. "I am a man of my word." The old man glanced at the big hand on his shoulder, and his mouth twitched. He did not want to keep his word, but he was afraid that Li Qingshan would not forgive him. The people in this building were all young men from influential families and sections. If he did not come out to smooth things over and allowed them to speak nonsense, they might really anger Li Qingshan, who knew how many people would die. The young ones are short-sighted and speak without thinking. "Please forgive us, Prince. It's just a small matter. It's not worth mentioning." "Oh, right. I still don't know your name." "I am Tai Xiong. Because I use a pair of judge pens, my friends in the pugilistic world gave me the name Iron Judge." Tai Xiong did not finish his words. He was called the Iron Judge because he was upright and hated evil. However, he did not have the face to say it now. "So it's Brother Tai. A judge also drinks with women," Li Qingshan joked. "Prince is making fun of me. I'm just feeling annoyed and wanted to drink a few cups." Tai Xiong normally would not come to this kind of place. Today, he was really unhappy, so he came to have some fun. He wanted to see the world-famous beauty, Husian Air. He did not expect that he would bump into Li Qingshan again after just one day. He was really unlucky. "Since you are called a judge, you should distinguish between good and evil. If you only dare to kill some small evildoers without any backing and ignore the evil Ma family, then wouldn't you be unworthy of your name? Ha! If you are still unwilling, I will spare you 3 more times. Let's drink to our heart's content today. You can make your decision tomorrow." Li Qingshan pulled Tai Xiong upstairs. There were still some guests downstairs. There was no one upstairs who was not a member of the martial arts world. Most of them were young, but there were also quite a few middle-aged and elderly people. However, none of them had reached the innate realm. All the martial artists who were presentable today were holding a martial arts circle convention in the inner city. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded as they looked over. Some people had already vaguely guessed Li Qingshan's identity and didn't dare to move. Among them, those who had tried to coax him were even more frightened to the point that their faces turned pale. Tai Xiong's seat was the best, so he could look down at the stage. He waved off a group of singers and invited Li Qingshan to sit in the main seat. He asked, "How is Brother Xue from the Snow Mountain sect?" "He's already Snow Mountain Hall Master Xue." Li Qingshan tossed the 5 Venoms sect's master at his feet. The sect master of 5 Venoms did not utter a single word. "Sai, that's good. Congratulations, Your Highness. You've gained another powerful ally. Tai Xiong felt a little better. Shui Hanfeng was much more powerful than him in terms of martial arts, reputation, and influence. However, he still surrendered to the world society. He asked, Your Highness, why are you here today? Is it for the Martial Arts Circle Convention? Martial Arts Circle Convention? Isn't that why you're here? No, what is the Martial Arts Circle Convention for? Is it a competition? Tai Xiong really wanted to slap himself. He didn't expect that Li Qingshan didn't know about such a big event. If he said it, he would be a villain who betrayed his friends and betrayed his enemies. If you don't want to say it, I won't force you. Someone here will know. Li Qingshan glanced around, and the young heroes all shrank. Sai, I'll say it. Alliance Master Zhang gathered all the heroes in the world for a meeting in the inner city. Alliance Master? Didn't he give up his position to someone else? Li Qingshan flicked the Alliance Master Jade talisman hanging on the hilt of his saber. This Alliance Master Zhang asked to resign, but no one agreed. So that's how it is. You don't have to say any more. That group of shameless people. What else can they discuss? They're just talking about how to deal with me. When I'm free, I'll go and watch them. Li Qingshan rubbed his chin and revealed a malicious smile. Your Highness, if we continue to stay here, there will be some trouble. Why don't we go somewhere else and not ruin the mood? Tai Xiong tried his best to salvage the situation. Li Qingshan smiled and said, Trouble? Even if I lend them courage, they wouldn't dare to come. They should be thanking the heavens if I don't go and find trouble with them. Tai Xiong felt that what Xiaoqian said was true. Yes, yes, yes. Let's drink. He quickly filled up Li Qingshan's cup, hoping that he would drink happily and forget about this matter. Li Qingshan drank a few bowls of wine and ate a few large pieces of beef to quench his hunger. He asked, Where's Huxian? Why isn't she out yet? Compared to the Martial Arts Circle Convention, this was more important. Behind the 10,000 flower house, there was a pavilion and a small, exquisite building. Huxian was dressing herself in front of a mirror. Her face was indeed very beautiful. She had a sharp chin and big eyes, revealing a crafty and intelligent look. She wore a white dress that wrapped around her exquisite and delicate body, causing one's imagination to run wild. Sister is really getting more and more beautiful. However, if you continue to be so slow, the young heroes and young masters outside will get impatient. The green-clothed maid behind her praised. Although her figure was a little skinny, she was still a beauty. Furthermore, she looked similar to Huxian. Let them wait. Anyway, it's the last night. I'll enjoy myself before I die. At least I won't waste their affection for me. Huxian's tone was cold. Among them, there are many lascivious people. However, people like young Master Lu, young Hero Wang, and the others are serious towards Sister. Sigh, I really can't bear to think about it. Serious? They are just lusting after my beauty. If I show my true appearance, will they still be serious? Don't forget how Mother died. Huxian looked into the mirror. The green-clothed maid immediately lowered her head and played with the corner of her dress. Huxian retracted her gaze. If you want to take advantage of me, go to the north and kill that Li Qingshan first. However, is it really good to provoke that Li Qingshan? I heard that his martial arts are deep and unfathomable. No one in the world can block a casual slash from him. I said that because of his high martial arts, I'm willing to send anyone to their death. It'll be good for my reputation. But if he kills his way here, what should we do? Why are you so cowardly? This is Black Tortoise City. Besides, he's just a stinky man. Are you afraid that he won't submit to me? At that time, we can kill whoever we want and avenge Mother. Speaking of which, why isn't that old poison here yet? I'll go take a look outside. The green-clothed maid immediately ran outside. Hussein sighed. When her mother died, she was still too young and did not understand this blood feud. However, she could not forget it. Even if it meant working with the dangerous Five Venoms sect leader, she would not hesitate. After a while, the green-clothed maid ran back panting and said in a panic, "Sister, bad news. Li Qingshan has come knocking on my door. He specifically wants to see you." "What?" Hussein was shocked and stood up. "Why did it have to be tonight? Let's hurry and escape. It'll be too late if we're late." The green-clothed maid hurriedly packed her belongings. When she bent down, a red fox tail trailed behind her. "What are you afraid of? Keep your tail. After I finish my makeup, we'll go out and meet him." Hussein sat down again and started grooming herself in front of the mirror. "Sister, your tail?" Chapter 12:12. Li Qingshan's words made the entire building fall into an uproar again. Everyone present had come for Hussein, the reward of sacrificing herself to purge a scourge of the martial arts world, had added a halo of holiness to her. When they heard that Li Qingshan was here to cause trouble for her, they couldn't sit still anymore. Righteous indignation overwhelmed their fear. Li Qingshan smiled. It seemed that Hussein was quite charming. She was a suitable candidate. The Five Venoms sex leader, who was lying under the table, also twitched. Cold sweat appeared on Tai Xiong's forehead. This group of young and hot-blooded men had never seen Li Qingshan's terror before. He didn't think that Li Qingshan would be merciful if they were to act rashly for the sake of a beauty. He was friends with their fathers, so how could he sit back and do nothing? However, if he made a move, he would only lose his life for nothing. Lady Xian is just young and ignorant. That's why she wanted to make an enemy of your highness. Your highness is magnanimous, so there's no need to lower yourself to her level. Why don't you ask her to come and apologize? She wants to make an enemy of me? Li Qingshan was stunned. Tai Xiong was tongue-tied. His face turned red and purple. He muttered to himself, So he doesn't know. This is interesting. Just half a day ago, I didn't even hear the name Hussein. Why does she want to make an enemy of me? How does she want to make an enemy of me? This. Tai Xiong's mouth was filled with bitterness. He couldn't answer. He felt that everyone was looking at him with disdain. If you don't want to say it, I won't force you. Li Qingshan waved his hand at a table next to him. There was a young man in a brocade robe holding a folding fan. Speak. Lu Zixio, would rather die than betray Lady Xian. Lu Zixio's face was filled with pride. Even though his heart was filled with bitterness, he didn't want to lose face. Everyone in the building cheered. As expected of young Master Lu, Lu Zixio cupped his hands in front of his chest in all directions. Although his face was a little pale, he had a great spirit of disregarding life and death. His cheers grew louder and louder, as if they were going to break through the terrifying haze that Li Qingshan had cast. Senior Tai, I respect you as a martial arts legend of your generation, but I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person who fawns upon those in power. You really don't know what's good for you. Tai Xiong was anxious and angry. Could it be that he had endured this humiliation just to preserve his own life? I just want to let you know that not everyone is afraid of death. Li Qingshan looked at this scene with a playful expression. Luo Ho Xiaoming woke up from his sleep and said impatiently, Stop being so noisy. Kill them all. Although the voice was tender and weak, it made the voices in the building quiet down. proving that most people were still afraid of death. Li Qingshan stood up and walked forward. Lu Zixio secretly swallowed his saliva and suddenly felt that his legs were a little weak. He stretched his neck and shouted, "Hero King, even if you can kill me as a person, you can't kill my love for Miss Xian." Before his voice died away, a big hand came at him like a dark cloud. It was so fast that he couldn't react at all. He couldn't help but close his eyes and said, "My life is over. Miss Xian, did you see that?" With a swish, there was no scene of broken tendons or broken bones, no scene of blood splattering, no scene of brains bursting, and no tragic scene of a dead body on the spot. Lu Zixio only felt a chill all over his body, but he didn't feel the slightest pain. He couldn't help but open his eyes and found that everyone was looking at him. A familiar figure appeared on the stage below. Her mouth was slightly open, and her face was full of shock. It was Huxian. She never expected to see such a scene as soon as she came out. Lu Zixio stood upstairs naked. It turned out that Li Qingshan's grab did not hurt Lu Zixio at all, but all his clothes were torn off. He was really naked. "It's a little small." Li Qingshan looked down with a mysterious smile and returned to his original position, leaving the naked young Master Lu there. Lu Zixio's white face was so red that it seemed like blood was about to drip out. He suddenly let out a hysterical scream and jumped out of the window. Thinking about it, this scene today would definitely repeat itself in his nightmares countless times. "Miss Xian, Everyone noticed Huxian's arrival. Tai Xiong's face was ashen. This Huxian was really daring to come out. She was really a femme fatale. Li Qingshan glanced at Huxian and hooked his finger at a black-robed young man. "Tell me, how is she going to go against me?" "Demon, I don't know anything. Just kill me." The black-robed young man gritted his teeth. Compared to being so ugly, he would rather die. "Chivalrous king, there's no need to interrogate others." "Why don't I tell you?" Huxian dragged her long dress and floated up to Li Qingshan. She glanced at the leader of the Five Venoms sect below the table and couldn't help but be stunned. "Oh, tell me." Li Qingshan crossed his arms and looked at her from head to toe. He felt a sense of déjà vu. "I declare to the world that no matter who takes your life, young or old, married or not, I, Huxian, am willing to marry him and serve him for the rest of my life." Huxian held her head high, as if she was going to face the danger. She exuded a holy and pure aura that moved everyone present. However, she also revealed her graceful figure. Enemies really don't meet unless they're not enemies. Li Qingshan finally knew that there was such a reason behind it. He walked around Huxian and said, and your appearance is not bad, your figure is good, and your martial arts are passable. Other than the fact that you're a little venomous, you really fit the bill in every aspect." Venomous. Huxian's heart skipped a beat. No man had ever evaluated her like this before. It made her feel naked. Luckily, the other party didn't seem to have any killing intent. He wasn't as cruel as the rumors said. As long as he didn't have any perverted thoughts, everything would be easy. She took a deep breath and said, "Chivalrous prince, if you want to kill me, do as you please. I, Huxian, will not resist. However, please spare the innocent people in this building." Her words moved everyone in the building, but they also felt ashamed. He was a man, but he needed a woman to protect him. What kind of man was he? They all pulled out their swords, wanting to fight to the death with Li Qingshan. "Everyone, don't be impulsive. Xian isn't worth it." She shouted and thought to herself, "A bunch of idiots, come and die." Li Qingshan frowned. He didn't see anyone else in his eyes and said to Huxian, "Your thoughts are really vicious. I don't know what chivalrous prince is talking about. Fuxian Er's eyes suddenly widened. A sharp pain came from her abdomen. Li Qingshan punched her in the stomach and said with a smile, "You understand now?" You. Fuxian slowly knelt on the ground. She didn't think that he would really hit her. Everyone's eyes widened. They didn't think that a man would actually hit her. "Sorry, I couldn't hold back this punch. You remind me of a hateful woman. However, I think you can still be saved. You just lack a lesson." Li Qingshan lifted her sharp chin and said, "Although you want to deal with me, I won't kill you. I will give you a great benefit. I will make you one of the top 10 beauties of Pudu Temple to fill the vacancy of the Ma family. Then I will take you in. What do you think?" Fuxian was completely speechless. She almost forgot the pain in her body. What kind of great benefit was this? What did he mean by one of the top 10 beauties of Pudu Temple? Tai Xiong's mind was in a mess. What was going on? Did he come south alone for this? Amitba, lady whose virtue is truly admirable. The great chivalrous prince wants to bully a woman like this. How despicable. A low and sorrowful Buddhist chant sounded. A monk and a man stepped into the building. It was Abbot Fu Ku and the mysterious Void Temple Master. After a round of discussion, Martial Union decided to wait for the hare in the inner city. They were afraid that the hare would come and knock down the tree. However, while others could choose not to come, they couldn't. If they avoided their enemy when they were just inches away, how could they have the face to stand in the pugilistic world? Li Qingshan smiled and said, "There really are people who dare to come looking for trouble." Abbot Fu Ku said, "If I don't go to hell, who will?" The mysterious Void Temple Master said, "Li Qingshan, did you kill my senior brother? Also, the blood feud of Master Fu, who must be avenged." Li Qingshan rubbed the back of his head. "Who are you guys talking about? Speaking of which, who are you guys?" "Your Highness." Tai Xiong suddenly spoke, explaining the whole story and the identities of these two people. He then sighed heavily and said, "Why did you guys come?" Chapter 12:13. Demon. The head of the Mystic Void Temple was talking about a blood feud, but Li Qingshan was talking about women. He was infuriated. "Look at how angry you are. Your senior brother brought this upon himself. He received so many benefits from me, and now he wants to harm me. He's a dog that won't be tamed. And you, monk, your junior brother can be considered a monk, but he dares to curse. Don't you know what bad words mean? If I don't teach him a lesson on behalf of Buddha, I'll be a monk disciple in vain." Li Qingshan lifted Fuxian up again and said to Abbot Fu Ku, "As an abbot, your lack of discipline is already a crime punishable by death. However, don't you admire her character? As long as you take her in and become one of the top 10 beauties in the world, I'll spare your life. And you, hurry up and hand over that person, or you'll die too." Fuxian closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks like raindrops on a pear blossom. It was truly a pitiful sight. "Demon, let go of Miss Xian. We'll fight him to the death." The young masters and heroes were enraged. With the support of these two elders, they felt much more courageous. Li Qingshan smacked the back of her head. "Stop pretending to cry." Fuxian's tears flowed even more. "I'm not." She hadn't been treated like this in many years. She felt wronged, and she couldn't help but feel afraid when she realized this man wasn't under her control. "Then hold it in." Li Qingshan glared, and Fuxian immediately stopped crying. She pursed her lips and looked pitifully at Li Qingshan. "That's right. Today is your wedding day." Li Qingshan smiled and rubbed the back of her head. Fuxian lowered her head, not saying a word. Demon Dai. Just when the young masters and heroes couldn't take it anymore, Abbot Fu-ku took a horse stance and stretched out his arms. He roared like a great bell, his voice traveling 10 li away. A golden light slammed into Li Qingshan. It's the lion's roar. This roar could directly kill an opponent, and the 7 demons of Yen Mountain had died to this move. He was known as the one roar killed 7 demons. Li Qingshan just shook his head. It sounds like a dog barking. Out of the corner of his eye, Zhang Xian saw Hu Xian covering her ears with a pained look on her face. He did not use her as a shield. It was just a little shock from the aftermath. It shouldn't be like this. Looking down, there was something hanging down from the fiery red dress. Like a big tail, it lowered its head and sniffed hard at her neck. Through the thick makeup and faint body fragrance, it actually smelled a trace of demonic aura. Strange. How could he transform without going through the heavenly tribulation after transforming? Unless he was beaten into his original form, he would not casually reveal his fox tail. But when he thought about it, he realized that Hu Xian was probably the same as Gu Yenying. She was also a hybrid of human and demon, and the fox demon race was innately good at bewitching and illusionary forms, not true transformations. So it's a vixen. What did you say? Hu Xian's body trembled, and her face turned pale as she hurriedly retracted her tail. Everyone felt that Li Qingshan was really crazy. At this time, he still dared to tease Miss Xian, but they could not help but feel that he was indeed worthy of being called the hero king for being so calm in the face of 2 great experts. At this time, a bolt of lightning illuminated the entire 10,000 flower tower. The mysterious Void Temple Master let out a low roar and used the mysterious Void Temple's supreme technique, the 5 Thunder Palm technique. Lightning leaped between his 2 hands and crackled. Abbot Fu-ku shattered his kasaya, and his muscles bulged as if they were plated with a layer of gold. However, Li Qingshan did not even look at them. He said to Hu Xian, I said you are a vixen. To others, these words might have sounded like flirting, but Hu Xian's expression dimmed. Knowing that he had seen through her, she did not dare to quibble. She pursed her lips and sent a voice transmission. Since your highness knows that I am not a beauty, why do you not let me go? I think I made the right decision to come here today. Hu Xian saw that there was not a trace of disgust on his face, and that his round eyes were shining. She could not help but feel confused. Was there really a man who did not mind her identity? Abbot Fu-ku rose from the ground and broke through the floor. He threw out a string of prayer beads, which turned into specks of golden light and whizzed over. This string of prayer beads had a total of 108 beads. They were refined from the relics left behind by the eminent monks of the Pudu Temple. Not only were they astonishingly powerful, they could pierce through stone and iron, but they could also change their trajectory in the air, making it impossible for people to dodge. Throughout history, who knew how many great evils had died to them? The mysterious Void Temple Master's hands danced with lightning, but he flashed to the feet of Li Qingshan, intending to attack from above and below. Your Highness, let me go first. I will only be a burden to you, Hu Xian said anxiously. The lightning and prayer beads already caused her to feel fear from afar. If she was affected by them, she was afraid that she would be exposed. If these 2 smelly fish and shrimps can harm a single hair on your head, I will write my Li character backwards. Li Qingshan's gaze pierced through the thick floor, and he pressed down with his right hand. The mysterious Void Temple Master was just about to send out the lightning in his hand, but his right hand suddenly couldn't move. It was nailed into the air, and the lightning in his hand exploded. Lightning is not that fun. The mysterious Void Temple Master and Shui Hanfeng had the same problem. They both wanted to use a powerful move to instantly kill him, so they used their moves to the limit. However, although lightning was powerful, it was the hardest to control. If it was interfered with by a divine ability, it would immediately go out of control and cause a backlash. He looked back at the prayer beads that were attacking him. Isn't it just a set of weak spiritual artifacts? Just as he was about to counterattack, a strong gust of wind came from behind him. The 5 Poisons sect master, who had been lying on the ground, suddenly leapt up and let out a strange, toad-like cry. Surging true energy condensed into a scorpion tail that stabbed towards Li Qingshan's back. 5 Poisons demonic art. Tai Xiong turned pale with fright. He had also participated in the battle against the 5 Poisons sect, but he had never recognized that the old man lying on the ground was the 5 Poisons sect master. The 5 Poisons sect master had been beaten black and blue by Li Qingshan, and he had lost all his teeth. As the saying goes, beat him until his mother doesn't recognize him. Who would have thought that the great demon who had run amok in the world would be lying on the table like a mangy dog? He had also carefully covered his face. If Hu Xian hadn't been thinking about him, she definitely wouldn't have recognized him. The 5 Poisons sect master was at the 10th level of the innate realm. In terms of cultivation, he was actually above Li Qingshan and had long since broken through his meridians. However, after knowing Li Qingshan's identity, how could he dare to act blindly without thinking? After lying on the ground for a long time, he had finally waited for this opportunity and immediately prepared to escape. However, for some reason, when he thought of that beating, a wave of resentment rose in his heart, and he sent out this fatal attack. Without looking at the consequences of this attack, he used the peerless movement technique of the centipede and fled out of the building. Li Qingshan, you dare to disrespect this old man? You brought this upon yourself. I almost forgot about you. Get back here. Li Qingshan didn't even turn his head as he reached out and grabbed out. The 5 Poisons sect master's figure paused, and the power of hope transformed into a giant hand that grabbed him back and used him as a shield. The 5 Poisons sect master's eyes widened, a golden light flashing in them. He could only revolve the 5 Poisons demonic art with all his strength and release his true energy to form a defense. But in a moment of panic, it was comparable to an all-out attack from Abbot Fu Ku. Chapter 12:14. Text online reading site, domain mobile phone, reading click, 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 click. Blood splattered all over the 5 Poisons sect master's body. The thick green liquid splattered on the floor, causing a puff of white smoke to rise. Li Qingshan smiled. It was no wonder why his face was so dark. As it turned out, he had refined his blood into poison, turning himself into a poison person. He could kill just by extending his hand. However, with that, the prayer beads would be soaked in poisonous blood, so they would probably be quite damaged. For a mere Qi practitioner to be able to control so many spirit artifacts, he must have refined them into life artifacts. Although they could display astonishing power, if they were damaged, the backlash would be quite severe. Sure enough, the Fu Ku monk's face changed drastically, going from golden to red. A mouthful of blood suddenly sprayed from his mouth, and it splattered several meters away. The golden color on his body dimmed, returning to its normal color. He pointed at Li Qingshan reluctantly. You dash. Then he collapsed to the ground and fainted. The mysterious void temple master's body was scorched black. He lay motionless on the ground. Li Qingshan threw the half-dead 5 Poisons sect master to the ground. The entire building was silent. Everyone looked at Li Qingshan as if they were looking at a monster. In the blink of an eye, the 3 great experts of the righteous and evil paths had all been defeated by him. It was as easy as playing a game. In truth, he had only truly attacked twice. Abbot Fu Ku and the mysterious Void Temple Master had both been seriously injured by the backlash. But in the eyes of the bystanders, this kind of method was simply amazing. Hussein Er's eyes widened. Li Qingshan suddenly smiled. He lowered his head and deeply kissed her lips, opening her pearly white teeth and tasting her fragrant tongue. Hussein moaned and closed her eyes. She accepted her fate and did not struggle or resist. Her face was dyed with an intoxicating blush. The youths upstairs and downstairs looked like they had lost their parents, but no one dared to speak again. Li Qingshan said, "I just now. Do you agree?" He then whispered, "If you dare to put on an act again, I will pull out your foxtail." Hussein lowered her head and said in a mosquito-like voice, Okay. Li Qingshan smiled and ordered Tai Xiong to move the mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fu Ku in a row. The three of them did not die. The backlash from their own techniques and natal spiritual weapons was not enough to kill them. Instead, it was the five poison sect leader who was the most heavily injured. He only had one breath left. The mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fu Ku woke up. They glared at Li Qingshan. Li Qingshan kicked the master of the five venoms cult on the ground. "Oi, stop playing dead. Let's talk about you. Speaking of which, what are you thinking? How dare you attack me? What are you thinking? Why do you still dare to attack me?" He was confined by this world, and his reaction speed was very slow. Although it was not dangerous, it Fu Saint had blocked. Although it wouldn't be dangerous, it would still be embarrassing. Moreover, it would give others an unrealistic feeling that he could also win. The five poisons cult master snorted, "Heroic king, please spare my life." This old man, this lowly one, was confused for a moment. "I am willing to join the world under the heavens faction and serve king like a dog." Tai Xiong said, "Wang Ye, absolutely not." The five poison sect's leader was cruel and vicious. He loved to kill the innocent. It will definitely bring shame to Wang Ye. Li Qingshan said casually, "Then let's kill them." The leader of the five poisons sect hurriedly said, "Your Highness, don't fall into the trap of sowing discord. This old man Tai's body is in the World Guild, but his heart is in Martial Union. I have a deep grudge against Martial Union. The reason I took the risk to come to Black Tortoise City this time is to deal a blow to Martial Union." "Oh, what is it?" Li Qingshan was curious, and he felt Hussein in his arms tremble slightly. The five venom sect's master said viciously, "I want to poison all the little bastards in this building to death." As soon as he said that, the entire building was in an uproar. If it were not for Li Qingshan's sudden appearance, who would be a match for the five venom sect master, they would all have been killed. How venomous! Tai Xiong sucked in a breath of cold air. Originally, he felt that meeting Li Qingshan was extremely unlucky. Now that he thought about it, if not for Li Qingshan being here, his life would have been in danger as well. On the ground, the mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fu Ku looked at each other, shock appearing on their faces. They had placed all their attention on Li Qingshan, neglecting the other demons. However, he had been hiding all this time, so how could he know the situation in Black Tortoise City? "TSK, you call this a big matter? If you said that you were going to poison all the people participating in the Martial Union Convention to death, I would still give you some respect. What's the big deal about bullying a bunch of little bastards?" "Die!" Li Qingshan raised his hand, about to slap down. The five venom sect's master shouted, "Niece, save me!" Hussein body trembled, and she lowered her head in silence. "This is all your plan. If you did not lure me here, how could I have suffered such a disaster? Now that you've climbed up a high branch, you're not even willing to help me? What? Everyone turned pale, with fright. Their gazes converged on Hussein, filled with disbelief. Ha! I knew you were up to no good. Li Qingshan smacked the back of her head again, then kicked the Five Venoms sex master to death. Don't make such bad friends in the future. Miss Xian, this can't be true. Yes, I did it. I took revenge for my mother. Everyone from Martial Union deserves to die. Hussein, face was filled with hatred. Could you be the illusion dancer's successor? Abbot Fu Ku suddenly came to a realization. Amit Ba, benefactor who, your mother used her illusions to incite chaos and slaughter. She deserves to be punished. Also, benefactor Li, you claim to be the hero king, but you do not know that your actions will bring chaos to the world, and how many people will die because of you. What I'm doing is the same as Buddha, making all living beings equal. No, I'm even higher than Buddha. Buddha only talks about it, but I bring true equality, allowing everyone in the world to have the opportunity to learn peerless martial arts. I'll make all the sects and aristocratic families that oppress all living beings collapse and disintegrate. I'll beat these born noble brats down from the clouds and make them compete with their servants. That's right. I want the world to fall into chaos. Li Qingshan said boldly, not believing in Buddha. Amit Ba, benefactor's demonic nature, is so deep that it cannot be purified by Buddha. If you're alive, you'll sink into the sea of bitterness. And if you die, you'll fall into hell, never to be reincarnated. Damn it, you're cursing me now that you can't beat me. Since you can't purify me, find someone else to do it for you. Li Qingshan crouched down and patted his bald head. He pointed at Hussein, beside him. Look at how evil she is. She's in need of the influence of the Buddhist Dharma. Hurry up and accept her as your disciple, and I'll spare your life. Hussein had a strange expression on her face. He was still talking about this. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her face. Abbot Fu Ku, I'm willing to become a disciple of Pudu Temple and listen to Buddha's teachings every day. The title of Martial World's Top 10 Beauties was a title that even her mother had never obtained. Chapter 12:15. Li Qingshan stood up and shrugged. He raised his right foot and was about to stomp down on the bald head. Your Highness, please wait a moment, Tai Xiong said. Wait for what? Master Fu Ku has always been benevolent. Not only is he a famous figure in the martial arts world, but he also has an extraordinary position in the hearts of tens of thousands of sons of Buddha. If I kill him now, I'm afraid more people will become enemies with the world faction. You mean he can kill me, but I can't kill him? Li Qingshan's expression darkened. Tai Xiong broke out in a cold sweat. He braced himself and said, Your Highness roams the world. Who can stop you? But there's no benefit in killing him. So why kill him? I can persuade the master again. Who knows, he might change his mind in a few days. All right, for the sake of compassion, I'll give you 4 days. At that time, if he's not willing to turn back, even if all the sons of Buddha are standing in front of me, I'll definitely kill him. Li Qingshan retracted his foot. Tai Xiong heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly helped Abbot Fu Ku up and channeled his vital energy to heal. Abbot Fu Ku kowtowed and thanked him. Li Qingshan, let them be. This kind of injury couldn't be healed in a few days. Since this monk still wanted to live, he might change his mind. He said to the mysterious Void Temple head, It's your turn. The mysterious Void Temple head was heavily injured. His body emitted a burnt smell. The backlash of the power of lightning wasn't easy to bear. He knew he would lose this battle before he came, but he didn't expect to lose so miserably. Li Qingshan asked Hussein, What's the name of the beauty of mysterious void temple? Yang Miaozhen, also known as Fairy Miaozhen. Is it not enough to have me? Huxian lowered her head, seemingly angry and resentful. Don't give me that. We've only known each other for less than 2 hours. Why are you pretending to be so affectionate? Of course, it's not enough to have you. We're going to gather the world's top 10 beauties. Besides, you're not the world's top beauty. Go away. Li Qingshan's tone didn't sound like he was hunting. Instead, he sounded like a child who was determined to gather a set of cards and let go of Huxian, who didn't belong to the set. Huxian, pouted. What a weirdo, Li Qingshan said to the mysterious void temple master. Oxnose, hand over your disciple, Yang Miaozhen, in exchange for your life. Devil, don't even think about it. Li Qingshan immediately raised his foot and pointed at Tai Xiong. Shut up. Tai Xiong was about to open his mouth to persuade him, but he could only shut his mouth when he heard this. Look at how smart this master is. He didn't even say a word. Those who drown are good at swimming, and those who are beaten to death are those who talk back. Die. Chivalrous prince, Yang Miaozhen is here. Please show mercy. A female Taoist wearing a crown walked in from outside. She had an indifferent expression on her face. She was tall and had no makeup on. Her gait was like that of a crane, and she looked very elegant. Oh, another one. Li Qingshan smiled. In less than 2 days, he had already gotten 3 of the top 10 beauties. His progress could be said to be godly. Yang Miaozhen climbed up the tall building with an indifferent expression. She bowed to Li Qingshan and the mysterious void temple master respectively, as if she did not see the miserable state the mysterious void temple master was in. Good, you're here to exchange for this Oxnose life, right? Li Qingshan asked. Miaozhen, no, I'd rather die, the mysterious void temple master said. Yang Miaozhen lightly shook her head. Not at all. Then you're here to collect his corpse. Not at all. I want to play a game of chess with Prince. Chess. This 10,000 flower pavilion is a place of elegance. This Huxian often tests people here with the 4 arts. It is difficult to determine who is better in the 4 arts, so we can only fight on this chessboard. If I win, please let him go immediately. If I lose, he will belong to Prince from now on, and I will not go back on my word. Regardless of whether Yang Miaozhen won or lost, her expression was indifferent. Li Qingshan said, If I stretch out my hand, do you think you can escape? What's the point of playing chess? It's easy to suppress others with force, but it's difficult to win them over with virtue. Just now, after listening to Prince's righteous words, I feel deep admiration in my heart and wish I could follow you. However, my cultivation comes from the mysterious void temple, so how can I just leave like this? I have to put in some effort. I believe that Prince is a virtuous person and will not disappoint Miaozhen. If Prince is not good at chess, you can ask Miss Huxian to do it for you. Her chess skills are also famous. Yang Miaozhen spoke tirelessly, neither servile nor overbearing. This kind of attitude could actually arouse a man's desire to conquer her. Li Qingshan smiled and said, You really know how to talk. If I win against you, I won't start a massacre if I'm happy. Regardless of the outcome, I'll protect this Oxnose life and even give myself a chance to win. Prince is wise and far-sighted, far surpassing me. Presumably, your chess skills are also far superior to mine. Huxian whispered, Prince, be careful not to be tricked. My chess skills. Li Qingshan drank the wine in the pot in one gulp and then waved his hand to clear the table. Bring the chessboard. A moment later, the blue-clothed maid brought the chessboard over and threw herself into Huxian arms. Elder sister, is this your younger sister? Li Qingshan asked. Reporting to Prince, she is. What's her name? Hu Ling Take good care of her. If I accidentally kill a beauty, at least I'll have a backup." Yang Miaozhen's eyes flashed. Li Qingshan snickered inwardly. She wasn't as calm as she looked. The two of them sat facing each other and were supposed to play first. Yang Miaozhen said, "Princess chess skills must be extremely high. Could you allow me to play first with black?" "Up to you. Although I haven't played many games, it's more than enough to beat you." The mysterious Void Temple Master was lying on the ground, sneering inwardly. This demon had such big words, but he didn't know how good Yang Miaozhen's chess skills were. Chess skills were different from martial arts. It depended on one's talent. Yang Miaozhen had a cold temperament and had no interest in martial arts. Besides cultivation, she was only obsessed with chess. When she was 13 years old, she won against the mysterious Void Temple Master. After she turned 15, she never lost again. At this time, a gust of wind blew into the building. A young girl came riding the wind and directly went upstairs from the window. She cupped her hands and said, "Your Highness, elder sister Yang, can I also play?" "You are?" Li Qingshan asked. "This little girl is Zhang Xianfeng from the Divine Wind sect. I happen to be one of the top 10 beauties." Zhang Xianfeng had changed into a man's outfit. She looked valiant and heroic, but her heart was filled with bitterness. She hadn't come here willingly. A moment ago, she had wanted to escape from the city and get as far away from Li Qingshan as possible. However, she had been caught by Zhang Yuntian and sent here to be a gambling stake. "Oh, what do you want to bet with me?" Li Qingshan smiled. It really had come to him without any effort at all. "Let's bet on the saber behind your highness." Zhang Yuntian stood at the top of the inner city wall, looking in the direction of the myriad flower pavilion. Before Li Qingshan obtained that saber, he did not have such strength. He had relied on brute force to break open the city gates and a bloody battle to capture Galloping Horse City. "Xianfeng, don't blame your master for being heartless. This concerns the life and death of the entire martial union. Since Li Qingshan has the heart to collect the top 10 beauties, with your intelligence and dexterity, keeping your life should not be difficult." Chapter 12:16. A beam of red light soared into the sky, tearing through the night sky. Killing intent swept through like a gale. Zhang Yuntian's expression changed. That was from the direction of Myriad Flower Tower. Did he attack? But just now, 2 top experts had entered and fought with him, but there was no such change. What did Xianfeng do to anger him? Li Qingshan was not angered. The one who was angered was the wildflower saber soul. The killing intent that erupted instantly turned Myriad Flower Tower into a Shura killing field. Everyone's expression changed. Some even wailed in fear. Yang Miaozhen could no longer remain calm. There seemed to be thousands of soldiers roaring in her mind. Her body trembled like a leaf in the wind. Many of the young masters in the tower crawled under the table. They could not resist the terrifying killing intent. Zhang Xuanfeng's face turned pale. He involuntarily retreated and fell on his butt. Li Qingshan grabbed the saber hilt. "Don't be so agitated." Just now, the violent killing intent was slightly restrained. He said to Zhang Xianfeng, "Little girl, you are not worthy to bet with my saber." "Yes, I am not worthy. Goodbye, Sister Yang. Take care." Zhang Xianfeng jumped up and turned to escape. "Stop right there. Do you still want to leave after saying such arrogant words?" Li Qingshan's lips curled up. "You are not worthy to bet with my saber. But look, there is a monk here. He is Abbot Fu Ku of Pudu Temple. If you can win him back, he will definitely thank you. Come, come. If you place your bet, leave your hand." "Yes." Zhang Xianfeng turned around with a sad face and slowly walked to Yang Miaozhen's side. Abbot Fu Ku put his palms together. Amit Ba, thank you, almsgiver Zhang, for saving this poor monk. No need to be so polite, Abbot. This is what I should do. Who would want to save an old monk? Zhang Xianfeng said again. Your Highness, why don't we make the chessboard public and let the people in the city see your Highness's superb chess skills? Are you afraid that I am cheating? Fine, up to you. A moment later, a large chessboard made of cloth hung outside the tower. With a clang, a black piece fell on the board. Yang Miaozhen made the first move. Your Highness, please, what is the name of the saber behind your Highness? End of the road, Wildflower. Li Qingshan casually put down a piece. The end of the hero, this name is a little inauspicious. Yang Miaozhen glanced at him. This step was completely out of order. Could it be that he really doesn't know how to play chess? After pondering for a moment, he decided to go his own way. A saber is a weapon of murder. How can it be auspicious? He was a hero. What's there to be afraid of? Li Qingshan placed his chess piece again. He didn't even think about it. Well said. I wonder who His Highness is. What kind of martial arts do you practice? I'm not practicing martial arts. Aren't you the same? Your Highness can tell that I don't like to fight with others. That's why I don't like martial arts. Instead, I cultivate the supreme mystery scripture of Taoism. Yang Miaozhen's hand that was holding the chess piece paused slightly. She revealed a surprised expression. The other person walked the same path as her. She paid a great price for her cultivation. She didn't take a step out of the Xuanchu temple for 20 years because she didn't have the ability to protect herself. When she went to Jianghu, it was very likely that she wouldn't be a match for a postnatal expert. She also never participated in the sect's martial arts competitions. She didn't even want to fight with others, even if she was mocked behind her back for having a body full of true qi, but not knowing how to use it. She believed that she walked a brilliant path and looked down on those competitive martial artists. She thought that they were just a bunch of wild dogs fighting for food. That was why she was probably the person who cared the least about Li Qingshan's reputation. At most, she thought that he was just a vicious wolf. Until this moment, you have a good temperament and are suitable for cultivation. Li Qingshan glanced at her. Under the deterrence of the wildflower saber's murderous aura, she was the fastest to recover. Her temperament was very good. Actually, from the moment she stepped into the building, he could feel that her temperament was different from ordinary people. She was closer to a cultivator than a martial artist. Although there was no clear boundary between practicing martial arts and cultivation, their fundamental goals were completely different. Practicing martial arts was to defeat the enemy, while cultivating qi was to live a long life. One was brave and ruthless, while the other was to cultivate one's character. The latter's path was naturally longer, but in this small world, it was clearly not as practical as the former. If one couldn't survive one battle after another, how could one talk about living a long life? If Yang Miaozhen didn't come from a large sect like the Xuanchu Temple, she wouldn't have the qualifications to make such a choice. She wouldn't even have seen a decent qi refinement method. He taught the Gui water condensation method to Xue Bing because her identity allowed her to not pursue her current strength. Instead, she would be able to pursue a longer-term development and have a greater chance of transcending tribulation and ascending. She's just naturally cold, Yang Miaozhen said. This was the evaluation that many people gave her. A warm-hearted person is not suitable for cultivation. The path of a martial artist is very exciting, but the path of cultivation is destined to be lonely. It was rare to meet a cultivator in this small world. Li Qingshan couldn't help but look at her in a different light. With her talent and temperament, if she had been born in the 9 prefectures, She would definitely have greater development. I originally didn't believe that your highness would walk the same path as me, but now I have no choice but to believe. But, your highness, are you lonely? If I'm not lonely, why would I stir up trouble and make the world restless? Li Qingshan said frankly, trapped in this small world, even if he could do whatever he wanted, he was still a prisoner, separated from little, and even if there were millions of people cheering and worshipping him, he was still lonely. Yang Miaozhen revealed a surprised smile. If I had the ability, I might be like your highness. You will have the ability, or at least be stronger than everyone here. This old man's life isn't worth risking yourself. Coincidentally, last night I also said similar words to someone else. Was it Miss Schwebing? That's right. Then, your highness, what did you use in exchange? Qi training technique. Qi training technique. Is it similar to the Taishan scripture? Recite the Taishan scripture. For me. Yang Miaozhen hesitated for a moment before reciting it. In the Xuanxu temple, the Taishan scripture wasn't really a secret. Outer disciples could comprehend it as they pleased, but no one was willing to practice it. Li Qingshan listened quietly. He found that it was similar to the innate qi condensation technique that he had practiced in the beginning. At least, the innate qi condensation technique was simple and straightforward. It could only be regarded as an introductory course for cultivators. It wasn't like the Taishan scripture, which was extremely mysterious and didn't even know how high the sky was or how deep the earth was. It's hard to understand, full of nonsense, making something that was originally simple complicated. Perhaps the author didn't understand it. After casually pointing out a few mistakes, Yang Miaozhen suddenly felt enlightened. Her eyes shone with naivety. So it was this technique that had a problem. If the head of the Xuanxu temple wasn't lying on the side, perhaps he would have changed the bet to a qi training technique. If you win, I'll give you a technique, but unfortunately, you've already lost. Chapter 1217. Yang Miaozhen looked at the chessboard. It was not the middle of the game yet, and she had the upper hand, trapping his big dragon. The white chess pieces were still disorderly and scattered. Zhang Xianfeng couldn't help but say, Your Highness, don't trick us. Who knows how many people are watching this game? If you don't believe me, then continue. Li Qingshan blinked his eyes and returned to his playful and mischievous self. He picked up a pot of wine and gulped it down. He already knew the entire game of chess. He had not played many games of chess before. In the beginning, he just played randomly, but afterwards, he used the divine talisman of great creation to power the spirit turtle transformation. Compared to the complexity and profoundness of formations, deriving the variations of a game of chess was as simple as it could get. Yang Miaozhen deliberated over her next move, but she appeared even more cautious. Li Qingshan did not even think about it and casually agreed. He was bored of waiting and asked Zhang Xianfeng, Isn't the sect leader of Divine Wind sect the Wulin Alliance leader Zhang Yuntian? It's my master. Oh, he sent you to test me? Zhang Xianfeng was speechless. Your master is really a good-for-nothing. Zhang Xianfeng expressed his agreement, but he was very worried. Yang Miaozhen's chess moves became slower and slower. Her body leaned forward slightly, clearly putting all her effort into the game, but her brows furrowed deeper and deeper. It was as if there was an invisible force suppressing the chessboard. No matter how she struggled, she could not escape from the other party's trap. Halfway through the game, Li Qingshan said, If you don't admit defeat now, you'll be struggling at death's door. Yang Miaozhen admitted defeat and took off the yellow crown on her head, letting her fine black hair flow freely. This was to show that he had become a monk and returned to secular life. Your Highness's skill in chess is the best I've ever seen in my life. Miaozhen is sincerely convinced. From now on, I'm Prince's woman. At this point, she couldn't help but blush. After all, she was a young woman. However, Miaozhen still has a presumptuous request. You want me to let this ox nose go? That's not it. How could I dare to make such a request? I only wish for your Highness to bestow upon me the qi refinement method, so that I can continue cultivating. Yang Miaozhen bowed deeply to the head of the mysterious void temple. Miaozhen is incompetent. She can't save him. This can't be blamed on you. I hope you can take care of yourself, the mysterious void temple head said. If anyone thinks that you don't know the ways of the world, then they're the dumbest. Ox knows. Fortunately, you have a good disciple. I'll spare your life today. Go back and think about it. Do you want to throw the profound void temple into the tribulation flames for a personal grudge? Burn everything to ashes. Li Qingshan laughed heartily. He picked up the mysterious void temple master and threw him out of the window. At this moment, over 1,000 people had gathered outside the building. Someone hurriedly caught the mysterious void temple lord and sent him back to the inner city. If he didn't dare to punish them, he would only be seen as weak and easily bullied. However, if he were to kill indiscriminately, it would only incite more hatred and resistance. In the end, the situation would be completely out of control under the influence of the will of the heavens. Li Qingshan didn't have any killing intent in his heart. He didn't intend to kill anyone on this trip south. The 5 Poisons sect master had fallen into his hands and courted death again and again. It wasn't a bad idea to use him to establish his might. He came to the balcony and said loudly, "Listen up, people of the world. I, Li Qingshan, will change this world. There will no longer be nobility or lowliness, class or oppression, sex or aristocratic families. Everyone will be able to create their own careers with their own 2 hands. If you want to learn peerless martial arts, go to the north." These words were like a hot summer wind blowing through the crowd and the entire city. Who didn't want to learn peerless martial arts? However, even if they were from aristocratic families or sects, how many of them were qualified to learn peerless martial arts? And this hero king, Li Qingshan, wasn't a murderous demon king, like the rumors said. Instead, he had uncovered a huge conspiracy, killed the 5 Poisons sect master, and saved everyone in the building. Li Qingshan glanced at the inner city wall. It was empty. Zhang Yuntian was no longer there. He turned around and waved his hand. "Go. Don't forget what happened today. Good and evil, right and wrong. How can we just look at the surface?" The young heroes in the building felt as if they had been pardoned and fled the building. However, a few of them bowed to thank Li Qingshan. A seed had been planted in the heart of the martial arts world. It would eventually take root and sprout, destroying the entire martial arts world. Amitabha, the world is in chaos. Abbot Fu Ku sighed. What you gave was exquisite dharma, happiness in the afterlife. What I gave was peerless martial arts, the power of the present. Why don't we see who is more compassionate? Hero King, I can take this almsgiver, who is my disciple, but the ceremony can only be held when we return to Pudu Temple's Mahavira Hall. Abbot Fu Ku lowered his eyes. Li Qingshan blinked and said with a smile, "That's a good monk. But don't worry, this Black Tortoise City is also a historical city. Since you're here, how can you not visit it? Rest well, Master. Tomorrow, take me to the inner city to have a look." That night, Li Qingshan stayed in Huxian Er's embroidery building to teach this evil vixen a lesson. Yang Miaozhen visited quietly, wanting to ask for the qi refinement method. She glanced out of the corner of her eye and saw a child sitting outside the door. It was the child who often followed Li Qingshan. He was holding his cheeks in boredom, thinking about something. Hu Ling was squatting on the other side of the door, covering her ears with her hands, her face red. Yang Miaozhen also heard the sound coming from the room. She couldn't help but blush and spit. When she thought that she would face the same fate, her Taoist heart couldn't stay calm. She hurriedly walked back to the room. Zhang Xianfeng was waiting for her there. "Sister Yang, you're back. Let's leave while that devil is messing around with the demonists. We lost, how can we leave? If we just leave like this, His Highness will definitely vent his anger on Xuanchu Temple and Divine Wind Sect." Yang Miaozhen didn't seem to care much about keeping promises and sex, but she was still concerned about the qi refinement method. In any case, the other party was a cultivator. No one could understand her feelings. It was like finding an oasis in a desert, and she was able to believe in her own Tao. "Forget it. If you don't leave, I'll leave. I don't want to do that kind of thing with a monkey." Zhang Xianfeng jumped out of the window and flew away. "Monkey?" Yang Miaozhen couldn't help but laugh. Thinking about it, he really did look like a monkey, but his spirit always made him forget what he looked like. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Xianfeng flew back. An old man stood outside the window and said in a deep voice, "Miss Zhang, if His Highness hears this, you'll suffer." Zhang Xianfeng was shocked and angry. "Senior Tai, what are you doing here instead of watching Abbot Fu Ku? His Highness said that the monk can run, but the temple can't. He only told me to watch you. You're helping a villain." Although she was one of the few experts of the younger generation, she was naturally no match for Tai Xiong. "You insisted on coming to gamble. What does it have to do with me? Since I've joined the World Conference, I should be loyal to my duty. This is also for the sake of the martial arts world," Tai Xiong said expressionlessly. If Zhang Xianfeng escaped, Li Qingshan would definitely go to Divine Wind Sect to hunt him down. Divine Wind Sect Master Zhang Yuntian just happened to be the Martial Union's alliance master. In the end, who knew what kind of trouble would be stirred up? If they were not careful, rivers of blood would flow. He had to consider the overall situation and nip this danger in the bud. What an iron-faced judge. I won't leave. To be continued. Chapter 1218. Inside the Red Candle Tent. Huxian was obedient after being taught a lesson. She meekly lay in Li Qingshan's arms, panting lightly. Her white and tender skin was dyed with a layer of red. Her large eyes narrowed into a pair of seductive eyes, but the color of her eyes had become orange fox eyes. Li Qingshan's large hand traced down her smooth and wet back, grabbing onto a fluffy red fox tail. Her pointy fox ears trembled, and she coquettishly said, "Don't touch this lowly one's tail." "I want to touch it." Li Qingshan grabbed and twisted, stubbornly like this. Is Prince not afraid of this lowly one's appearance? Huxian raised her fox ears. "What's there to be afraid of?" Li Qingshan said disapprovingly. She could be considered to have perfectly retained the characteristics of a human, but this made her look even more wild and seductive. Huxian covered her mouth and laughed. "That's right, Prince is similar to me, like a baboon. If you don't dislike me, I won't dislike you either." "You're the one who's like a baboon." Li Qingshan not only retorted with his mouth, but also his hands. He grabbed the red fox tail and slapped her buttocks, leaving a clear palm print. "Li Qingshan, I've already given myself to you, but you still hit me." Huxian's face was full of grievance. In her life, which man wasn't polite to her, but this man just had to hit her without any tenderness for the fairer sex. "I hit you for your own good, to help you correct your evil intentions." Li Qingshan yawned, using her legs as a pillow, and said without sincerity, "How was my evil intentions?" I did it to avenge my mother. Husian immediately straightened her back, and her breasts trembled slightly. Your mother is the phantom dancer, right? Didn't you hear the monk say that your mother caused chaos in the martial arts world? Serves you right to die. It was clearly that group of men who were lustful and killed each other. How can you blame my mother? Husianer bit her lips, and her breasts rose and fell. Ha! You dare say that your mother didn't deliberately provoke them? Do you think I don't know the temperament of demons? Since you're already dead, there's no need to dwell on it. Li Qingshan could completely imagine what a fox demon that did not abide by human etiquette would do. Not to mention being dissolute. Even a normal woman would want to entice a group of stupid men to fight for her, let alone a fox demon that was proficient in illusions. The group of spare tires fought to the death. It was to bring chaos to the martial arts world. My mother's illusions are invincible. If she wasn't betrayed, how could she have died? Husien's face was filled with sadness. Betrayed by your father? How did you know? Otherwise, it wouldn't be considered a betrayal. Playing with other people's feelings, and in the end, being played with. This could be considered retribution. Hee. Speaking of which, your father was also wronged. If that's what I'm doing, if he suddenly found a fox in his bed, he would definitely be so angry that he wanted to kill someone. Li Qingshan felt a chill just thinking about it. You're talking nonsense. My mother once consumed a stalk of transformation grass. She was no different from a human, but later she accidentally revealed her true form. Transformation grass. Li Qingshan's eyes lit up. Do you have more? It had to be said that as the ape demon transformation continued to improve, he was indeed becoming more and more like an ape. It was no longer just at the level of having a strange appearance. He himself did not mind, but if he continued to transform, he would definitely be treated as a demon like the White Ape King. Under the influence of the heavens, it would definitely become a form of rejection and opposition, which would be detrimental to his process of unifying the world. Of course there's more, but you have to first admit that my mother didn't deserve to die. Husian insisted. Li glared at her. I think you're itching for a beating again. Husien's face was full of resentment. Sigh, can't you treat me better? Fine, I'll tell you. My mother once left 2 stalks of transformation grass for us sisters, along with all the treasures she had accumulated throughout her life. They were all devoured by that man, so the transformation grass is useless to humans. I'm sure she still has it. All right, when we get to the Pudu Temple, we'll immediately go look for the transformation grass and kill that heartless father of yours to avenge your mother. How's that? I'm good enough for you, right? Really? That's great. Husian threw herself into Li Qingshan's arms and cupped his face in her hands. Your Highness, I'm already yours. Please don't betray me. Don't worry. Why would I betray you? You won't be able to sell them for much. Husian was so angry that her long, shapely eyebrows were raised. She wanted nothing more than to bite him. Li Qingshan laughed heartily. He turned her over and pressed her under his body. The world is vast, and the Tao is boundless. We'll eventually be separated. Come and enjoy yourself with me. At least we didn't meet in vain. Husian let out a low moan as she endured his invasion and conquest. She stared at the slightly comical ape face and silently said, I know you won't betray me because you don't care about it. You've never put me in your eyes. It's just a game. You even hit me, scolded me, and bullied me. But if I say that I'm sincere, I'm afraid you'll laugh at me for pretending. On the snowy mountain, Xue Bing was meditating and cultivating. She was transforming the blizzard qi in her body into Gui water qi. Li Qingshan's words seemed to contain some kind of magic. The Gui water qi condensation method flowed in her mind without missing a single word. This technique might not be some kind of secret technique, but it was born in a world of cultivators. After thousands of generations of refinement, it perfectly balanced the difficulty and speed of cultivation. It also didn't demand too much of the cultivator's natural endowments. It could be considered one of the most universal techniques. To some extent, it was even more valuable than the boundless ocean art that Li Qingshan had cultivated. At least it was more suitable for this world. During the day, she discussed it with her father. Xue Hanfeng was also full of praise. He said that although the lethality of this method was not as good as the blizzard sword art, it was gradual, well-prepared, and had a deep understanding of the way of water. It had a greater chance of reaching the innate 10th tier, or even the void-breaking realm. Moreover, the attached spells were very strange and ingenious. If used properly, the power might be even stronger than martial arts. If her blizzard qi condensation method was not close to completion, she would definitely switch to this set of methods. But she spoke out the concerns in her heart. Li Qingshan had forced her to buy and sell. Xue Hanfeng could only sigh. It's my incompetence that I can't protect you. As for whether or not to cultivate this set of methods, it's up to you. But I think this Lord Chivalrous has a loose temperament. He likes to joke, but he is not a lecher. If you refuse, he probably won't use force. You can still marry your senior brother. Haven't you always liked him? Marry my senior brother? No, the meaning of my life is not to marry and have children. I am more important than the Snow Mountain sect to give birth to the next leader. This was the belief instilled in her by that man. Besides, there was no Snow Mountain sect anymore. So she decided to start cultivating the Gui water qi condensation method. She completely transformed her qi into the Gui water qi condensation method. Then she couldn't help thinking, is this an exchange? I don't know when he will come to collect the debt. What should I do then? Then she thought with some disappointment, I don't know where he went. Is he in danger? Or maybe it was just a joke. He has already left me behind. For the first time in her life, she understood the feeling of lovesickness. Once upon a time, the mountain village boy who looked at a beautiful woman from afar also had the charm to make people fall in love at first sight, even though the current him was like a wild monkey. To be continued. Chapter 1219. Yang Miaozhen sat on a praying mat as the morning sun shone into the room. This set of skills is called Yiwud Vitality Method. Listen carefully. Li Qingshan held a bowl of soy milk in his left hand and a meat bun in his right. He ate and drank while passing down the Yiwud Vitality art. After he was done, he ordered Abbot Fu Ku to lead the way to the martial union in the inner city. Along the way, they attracted the attention of the entire city. The streets on both sides of the street were filled with people coming to see the legendary hero king. Hu Xian, Yang Miaozhen, and Zhang Xianfeng attracted even more attention. Hu Xian walked with light steps, looking fragile. This was the aftermath of being taught a lesson. Yang Miaozhen's mind wandered, focusing on comprehending the essence of the Yiwud Vitality art. Zhang Xianfeng frowned, looking left and right from time to time, looking for a chance to escape. However, when the group arrived at the inner city, there was no one in the city. Giant trees towered into the sky, casting their shade on the red walls and green tiles. Only the sound of cicadas could be heard. It was a desolate place. Li Qingshan laughed aloud and wandered around the city randomly. He saw a large statue that was consecrated in an ancestral hall. A valiant young man wielded a sword in his right hand and held an imperial seal in his left, sitting on a throne. There were 2 rows of statues below. There were monks and Taoists of both genders standing upright like subjects serving their king. The last one was the current alliance master, Zhang Yintian. "What is this place?" Abbot Fu Ku said. "This is the Martial Union Hall where the past alliance masters are worshipped." "What about the one in the middle?" "It's the first alliance master, Long Patian, who created it." Before Abbot Fu Ku could finish, Li Qingshan had already walked up. He kicked the statue over, shattering it into pieces on the ground. "Monk, I know you're not willing to submit, but if you dare play any tricks, the statue in the temple will be destroyed." Abbot Fu Ku was silent. "All right, let's go to Pudu Temple." The alarm in Pudu Temple rang. 108 martial monks held their staffs and set up an Arhut formation. All the experts in the temple gathered together, waiting. The sun was high up in the sky. The sun was blazing. All the monks were sweating. He didn't know if it was because of the heat or because he was nervous. At the very least, there were a few senior monks who had stepped into the innate realm who were not afraid of the cold and heat. However, no one would feel that it was a disgrace to have such a performance. It was just that the name of the demon was too famous. He had forced the Snow Mountain sect to surrender. He captured Abbot Fu Ku and the mysterious Void Temple Master in 2 or 3 moves. Shifeng had killed the leader of the Demonic Path's 5 Poison sect and forced the entire martial union into retreat by himself. Who wouldn't be afraid of such a person? Now, Pudu Temple was about to face a catastrophe that had not been seen in 100 years. No one knew if there would be any survivors after today. A gray-robed monk hurried to the Hall of Great Strength. He no longer cared about etiquette and said in a panic, "The devil has reached the foot of the mountain." Again, yes. A moment later, another gray-robed monk rushed over. "The devil has arrived at the mountain gate." Again. However, after 2 hours, the devil finally reached the mountainside. The sun rose high in the sky. The monks became more and more impatient. They believed that this was a psychological attack, deliberately stalling for time to put pressure on them. Moreover, it had succeeded. Many of the monks' robes were drenched, and they looked as if they had just been fished out of water. Their morale was greatly reduced. That demon must be afraid of using such despicable methods. An old monk asserted. "That's right. Order the disciples not to relax. Don't fall for that demon's trap." However, this had nothing to do with Li Qingshan. It was Huxian, who had repeatedly complained that she wanted to rest. Last night, she had experienced her first experience. Even with her half-fey body, she had been tormented. Moreover, she had rushed all the way from Black Tortoise City to here. She was completely exhausted. No matter how overbearing Li Qingshan was, he couldn't force her. Forget it. Today is your wedding day. If you want to rest, then rest. He could only slowly walk up the mountain. He didn't look like he was here to cause trouble, but more like a mountain climber on a sightseeing tour. Finally, at 3 in the afternoon, Li Qingshan stepped into the temple. The sun was already setting in the west. He ignored the monks in the temple and walked all the way to the Hall of Great Strength. He turned back and said to Abbot Fu Ku, "We're here." The Arhut formation surrounded them, and they could no longer retreat. They were ready to go. In front of the Hall of Great Strength, the old monks said together, "Greetings, Abbot." Abbot Fu Ku ordered, "All of you, stand down." Yes, even though the monks were unwilling, they couldn't disobey. They thought to themselves, "Is the abbot really going to submit to the demon?" Smoke curled up in the hall. The giant Buddha's eyes were half closed, overlooking all living beings. His golden body shone brilliantly. Huxian also felt a trace of awe in her heart. She didn't dare to be negligent and knelt at the feet of the giant Buddha. Abbot Fu Ku ordered someone to bring a razor. Hu Xian immediately covered her fine black hair and looked at Li Qingshan pleadingly. There's no need to shave her head. Let her be a layman disciple. Li Qingshan waved his hand. Abbot Fu Ku didn't say anything else. He asked solemnly, Hu Xian, as long as you live, do not lie. Can you uphold it now? Hu Xian hesitated for a moment and glanced at Li Qingshan. She whispered, No. Li Qingshan also said, If you can't, then you can't. It's really difficult to make a fox demon not lie. It's wishful thinking to make a woman not lie. Next one. As long as you live, do not steal. Can you uphold it now? Hu Xian became bolder when she saw that someone was backing her. No. Abbot Fu Ku didn't waste any time and continued, As long as you live, do not kill. Can you uphold it now? No. Hu Xian shouted. She still had a great feud to settle. So how could she not kill? Abbot Fu Ku closed his eyes. As long as you live, do not lust. Can you uphold it now? Li Qingshan laughed aloud. That's obviously impossible. All right, that's it. Abbot Fu Ku opened his eyes and said coldly, Almsgiver Pu, since you can't follow any of these Buddhist commandments, forgive me for not accepting you as a disciple. Tai Xiong's expression changed drastically. He shouted, Master! Hu Xian was stunned. She sneered in her heart. I'll kill all of you bald donkeys. Zhang Xianfeng pondered. Will I have a chance to escape when things get chaotic later? Yang Miaozhen was still deep in thought and didn't notice the changes in the outside world. The smile on Li Qingshan's face didn't change. Good monk, use whatever moves you have. Don't tell me that you're just stubborn. Buddha is merciful. Subdue the demon. Abbot Fu Ku put his palms together. His voice was loud and majestic, reverberating in the hall of great strength. The Buddha behind him surged with golden light. It turned into a golden ocean and swallowed Li Qingshan. Power of vow. Li Qingshan's eyes reflected the golden light. Pudu Temple was not only a 1,000-year-old ancient temple, but it was also the Buddhist holy land of this world. The power of vow gathered here was like a mountain or an ocean. Although there weren't many changes, this terrifying power was enough to make Li Qingshan not underestimate it even if he wasn't confined by the world, let alone now. Abbot Fu Ku activated all of it. He wanted to kill Li Qingshan at all costs. His expression was ferocious. Chapter 12:20. When Li Qingshan was still young, he had once witnessed the Peachwood prayer sword in the Dragon's Gate sect. It was only worshipped by the disciples of the sect day and night, but its power was already extremely startling, completely exceeding the abilities of cultivators. Afterwards, he witnessed the fearless great Buddha in the Chan monastery of Devanaga. If it were not for little N's Buddha's slaying sword, he would basically be invincible. If he still did not know how to be vigilant after suffering twice, then he would be wasting the ape demon's cleverness. However, he was also taking a gamble by coming to the Grand Hall. He was gambling that the people of this world did not possess the ability to convert the power of belief into a killing move. At most, they could only unleash it like this, and they would not be able to control it. This was not a power that Qi practitioners could control in the first place. And he won the bet. Such an ownerless item. Please lend it to me for a while. Li Qingshan took out the divine talisman of great creation and plunged it into the golden sea with a trail of rainbow light. It immediately dyed the sea red and purple. He said sternly, "Evolve." The mountainous power of belief turned into surging spiritual qi and surged towards him. The dense light was visible to the naked eye, rushing out of the grand hall and competing with the sun. The overwhelming spiritual qi did not originate from the power of belief in the divine talisman of great creation and did not belong to Li Qingshan, but it was not affected by the confinement of the world either. Li Qingshan opened his mouth and sucked in a deep breath. He swallowed the surging spiritual qi and powered the ape demon transformation at full strength, converting the spiritual qi into cultivation. The ape demon transformation suited his personality very well. He had basically comprehended the first layer already. What he lacked right now were spiritual qi resources. With an ape's howl, Li Qingshan's fur grew at a visible rate. His arms became thicker and longer. A hairy face with a thunderous mouth already resembled an ape's. There was even a tail protruding from the back of his bottom. His form was closer to an ape demon than a human. The spiritual qi condensed from the millennia of power of belief was so turbulent. Li Qingshan had only forcefully devoured a third of it, yet he already felt like he had eaten too much and could not digest it in time. Even with his tough body, this was already his limit. The surging spiritual qi dispersed. Li Qingshan said to the dumbfounded Hu Xian, and the others, "Don't just stand there. This is a benefit." Hu Xian, immediately reacted and began to meditate. Yang Miaozhen took this opportunity. After converting all the Taishan genuine qi in his body into Yi with genuine qi, his Dantian sea of qi suddenly became empty, but it was immediately filled with spiritual qi. Zhang Xianfeng didn't want to run anymore. He would be a bastard if he didn't take advantage of the situation. Tai Xiong was overjoyed. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Even the young fox demoness, Hu Linger, could not be bothered to maintain her human form. When Abbot Fu Ku saw that his ultimate move could not do anything to Li Qingshan, he fell to the ground. His face was ashen as he shouted, "All monks, listen up! Slay the demon!" More than a dozen figures rushed out from the back of the temple. All of them were innate masters. The glorious temple was filled with murderous intent. The one with the highest cultivation was a white-browed old monk. He was already close to the Xiantian 10th stage. He brandished a dazzling golden Buddhist staff and struck down towards Li Qingshan's headlong with an evil wind. Slay the demons and protect the temple. All the monks rushed into the main hall. Their expressions were almost fanatical, and they rushed towards Li Qingshan with all their might. Li Qingshan raised his head and looked at the Buddha. He chuckled and turned the remaining power of vow into an invisible will. It swept through the grand Buddha's hall and affected the entire Pudu temple. All the monks were stunned. In their eyes, Li Qingshan suddenly became dazzling, as if a Buddha had descended. He was awe-inspiring and inviolable, and they could not help but stop in their tracks. Abbot Fu Ku's face was full of struggle, but his will quickly collapsed under the impact of the will. The white-browed old monk's eyes were blank. The golden Buddhist staff stopped above his head and could not fall anymore. Hu Xiener and Yang Miaozhen also looked at Li Qingshan in a daze. Tai Xiong's heart was filled with endless admiration. Zhang Xianfeng had never liked Li Qingshan's monkey-like appearance, not to mention that he had become even more monkey-like now. At this moment, she felt that he was more handsome and stalwart than any man she had ever seen in her life. An unprecedented feeling sprouted in her heart, and it quickly grew stronger. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, but it made the entire Pudu temple quiet. The cicadas' cries also quieted down. Only Luo Ho Xiaoming was unmoved, and he looked at everything around him with a playful expression. This was like a tyrant forcing himself on a bow. This move swept through all directions, and the effect was similar to a charm. However, Li Qingshan had never learned the art of charm, so he did not know what seduction and control was. It was all about crushing people with brute force. It was almost like directly raping people's minds, making men worship and women fall in love. In fact, Li Qingshan had an idea. He originally wanted to turn the remaining power of Vow into spirit stones and then slowly absorb it for cultivation. However, this power of Vow did not belong to him, so he could only turn it into nothing. When the dust settled, Abbot Fu Ku walked forward and prostrated himself, as if he was facing a statue of Buddha. This poor monk greets the king. All the monks knelt on the ground. Greetings, king. Didn't you see me as a devil? Li Qingshan asked. He was also curious about the effect of this move. This poor monk is slow-witted. Please punish me, king. Ha ha, I've finally cured your stubborn disease. From now on, you are the hall master of Pudu Temple. Li Qingshan laughed. It was a pity that the people from Martial Union did not come, or he would have calmed the martial world. King, with your merciful heart, you used a thunderous method to punish evil and make all living beings equal. This poor monk is willing to follow you and work like a dog. Good, all of you get up. Li Qingshan waved his hand, and all the monks stood up. However, there was a trace of confusion in the depths of their eyes. It was not easy to forcibly change the will of others. If one had great perseverance, he or she would be able to wash away the brand sooner or later and restore his or her original appearance. However, such people were in the minority. However, the brand could also become deeper and deeper. It could be imagined that most of the people here would have unparalleled respect and loyalty to him for the rest of their lives. However, it was quite boring when he thought about it. He never liked to play the role of a god. He looked deeply at Huxian, and Yang Miaozhen. I hope you can break free soon. Then he glanced at Zhang Xianfeng. As for this traitor, he would deal with him tonight. Hallmaster Fu Ku, the World Society advocates freedom of belief. The disciples of the temple can continue to stay here to cultivate. You can take a few senior monks and report to the northern region. Let's see what arrangements President Gu has. Yes, thank you for your magnanimity, King. Fu Ku heaved a sigh of relief. After all, it was his life's faith. If Li Qingshan insisted, it would immediately trigger the most intense conflict in his heart. It was not impossible to break this brand. Li Qingshan really wanted to give it a try, but in the end, he decided not to do such a boring thing. Okay, take me to see the legendary Fiend Star. King, please follow me. The Fiend Star is suppressed in the bitter lake behind the main hall. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.